We are Novels Hall Dynasty. If you want to listen to more novels or more chapters of this novel, visit a path with the name of Novice Hall Dynasty. We continue with the novel.
Battle Frenzy. Part 1. Chapter 1, Fate Trickster. Desire was the force that drives progress, as well as what gives birth to destruction. In 2206 CE, humanity is confronted with its most severe energy crisis, while the Earth's climate has become exceedingly vile due to the excessive exploitation of the planet's resources. The colony on the moon couldn't support 100 million immigrants, and thus, the Salvation Project began. Humanity decided to build an artificial black hole between the Earth and Moon in order to provide everlasting energy, while also improving the Earth's environment. This project clearly had enormous dangers associated with it, but it was their only method for salvation. 2216 CE. The construction of the black hole was a success, but the aftermath was something humanity could never have predicted. The black hole caused a higher dimension to overlap with Earth, causing a spatial fold effect. This led to drastic changes on Earth, such as spatial cracks, unusual powers manifesting, and mutated organisms. The Earth descended into chaos due to the ineffectiveness of conventional weapons in the face of these new monsters. Even the ultimate weapon of humanity, nuclear weapons, became useless. After a short 3 years, the Earth's population had declined to only 200 million, and human civilization was on the brink of annihilation. Thus, humanity entered its last stand. However, during this moment of crisis, humanity's avarice was matched by its powerful vitality, which revealed itself. After many years of fighting against these monsters, humanity discovered what had caused the organisms of Earth to mutate. While other organisms had been transformed by this energy, many humans had also been transformed as well. In their final stand, humans continuously searched for ways to strengthen themselves. After much effort, they were able to create a completely new battle system. In honor of the countless sacrificed in order to create this system, it was titled the Heroic Soul System. Named as such because a hero's soul would never be extinguished. At the same time, the famous scientist, Glenn Grasso, discovered a way to use this unusual energy in a scientific manner. People called this energy Grasso energy. Combined with technology, it was newly termed room technology. After paying a steep cost, humanity was able to wield this new energy and overcome the danger of extinction. After fighting for several centuries, humanity was finally able to stand firm and claim a position on Earth. With the combination of their technology and new battle system, they were able to establish cities upon cities, rapidly expanding out once again. The new generation whose souls were ignited became the main defending power of these cities. They were called Heroic Soul Soldiers. In every single city, the Heroic Soul Schools became the most important sector. These schools were the cradle from where soldiers were nurtured. After the old human society had been completely destroyed, two factions emerged from the ashes. One was the Imperial Alliance while the other was the Freedom Federation. The Freedom Federation followed the social order of the olden days. Thus, it also followed the governing hierarchy of the past. The Parliament was the highest order of authority, but the major families and financial groups were the true wielders of power. A majority of the technology and resources of the olden days were inherited by the Federation. The Freedom Federation discriminated against mutants, strictly prohibiting mutants and ordinary people from intermarrying. As for the Imperial Alliance, they had inherited much less of the resources of the olden days. During the Dark Ages, the discarded human communities fought with blood and fire and were able to rapidly expand by forming an alliance of nations with a strict social order. Humans, Nehumans, and other unusual races could be found in the alliance, all of them living for the pursuit of supreme power. Originally, there were many great wars between the two factions over natural resources, but after encountering a great enemy, they were able to sign a peace agreement. Thus marked the new era of rapid development for humanity. A short 100 years later, the human population had grown back to 1 billion people. Undoubtedly, their intelligence and powerful reproduction ability allowed humans to regain their position as Earth's most powerful ruler. However, what was lost could never come back. There were 5 forbidden mutated regions that humans were unable to conquer. In addition to those 5 regions, the influence of the hyperdimension allowed humans to realize that they weren't the sons of heaven. New Era 516. The Kaiser Empire, one of the 3 great empires within the Imperial Alliance. An emaciated child was born in the best hospital of the empire. This child had to go into intensive care and was on the verge of death. Surely, don't be sad. I believe that this child will definitely be able to stand tall. Wang Zonfeng said in order to comfort his wife. Wang Zonfeng gently shook his head. This matter had already been censored by both the Freedom Federation and the Imperial Alliance, and had become a taboo topic. After all, this was the greatest catastrophe humanity had faced since the new era began. Once again, it seems that before humans are destroyed, God will make humans go crazy. But in the end, who knows what is right and what is wrong? Dr. Leighton was a super genius and was the greatest expert on science and room technology of the century. He had accidentally obtained the Fate Stone, a hyperdimensional divine item. This spawned many crazy ideas that were supported by the Imperial Alliance, such as, everyone can become a god, humanity will reclaim everything, and conquer the hyperdimension. Humanity had coveted the powers of the hyperdimension for a long time and had even begun experiments in the unregulated Inca city. This wasn't the first time that humans had tried to spy into the realm of the gods, and it wasn't their first failure either. It was just that this experiment's failure had caused an earthquake with a magnitude of 13 to shake Inca city. The heavens fell and the earth was split asunder by this disaster that lasted the whole day. The city had also been struck by a tsunami that day, causing floods and many casualties. Furthermore, 100,000 people lost their homes. As for the Imperial Alliance, they abandoned Dr. Leighton and used him as the scapegoat. The dead Dr. Leighton had been transformed from a scientific genius into a scientific devil. Wang Zong was an orphan of the disaster. Wang Zonfeng embraced his wife. This child is very strong. He was even trying to reassure us just moments ago. Ah! My heart was about breaking to pieces when I saw him smile while enduring so much pain. Shirley couldn't control the tears that streamed down her face. Perhaps death is a type of freedom in itself. If he's able to make it through this, we'll leave this place and go live a tranquil life. We won't bother with any disturbances, Wang Zonfeng resolutely said. He had already achieved glory, as well as fallen to an all-time low. The only thing he had left was his family. Inside of the hospital ward, a 4 or 5-year-old child quietly lay there. It was silent aside from the sound of an apparatus tripping. A sedative had been used on him recently, allowing Wang Zong to finally enter the land of dreams. In reality, Wang Zong didn't really like sleeping. Although he would be in pain while he was awake, he at least wouldn't be lonely. He liked the world that was full of vitality, rather than the darkness and loneliness of the world of dreams. However, sleep wasn't something he could prevent. As Wang Zong's breathing became more steady, his surroundings seemed to quiet down. Then the side of the apparatus flashed a bit and Wang Zong's eyelids twitched. There was only darkness within the dreams for the sensible Wang Zong. There was nothing he could do. However, today was different. The infinite darkness in his dream suddenly turned red, giving Wang Zong a pleasant surprise. The torment he experienced from his ailment had already rid him of any fear of death. Now the only thing he feared was to be alone. The color around him changed once again, from red to orange, then to yellow. Wang Zong was extremely happy at this sight. His quiet world had finally gained some color. Others may disdain such a matter, but for Wang Zong, this had brought him much joy. His surroundings stopped at the color purple, as if it had been a blossoming rainbow. From the very core of these colors appeared a figure. It was a small, brightly colored clown. The little clown seemed particularly happy. Hi. Child, I am your envoy of fortune, the handsome Simba. The peerless Simba. The powerful Simba. The little clown somersaulted 3 times in the air before landing in an exaggerated pose. Of course, he hadn't forgotten to swing his onion-shaped hair around as he pulled out a beautiful rainbow. Simba? That sounds like a puppy's name. Wang Zong couldn't help but laugh. Most children would react in the same way should they see such a little clown, let alone Wang Zong. The little clown's face suddenly spun down. What puppy? I am the fate trickster, Simba. I play tricks on fate and there's nothing I can't do. Child, you have encountered something great. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 2, Seniors Here. Simba revealed a fiendish expression, wanting to make Wang Zong yield. Little Wang Zong examined Simba with a smile. In fact, he even walked up to Simba and began touching him. For little Wang Zong, this wasn't a cute little clown, but a rare animal and the most adorable thing in this world of darkness. Simba retreated 2 steps and rubbed his red nose. He had never expected to meet such a foolish child. Ah, forget about it. A powerful fey trickster such as I shouldn't bother with him. Child, what is your name? I'm Wang Zong. Are you really called Simba? It's a cute name. No, brat. You are to never use the word cute to describe I, the great fey trickster. I am a powerful existence that has transcended fate. Clearly, Simba was very dissatisfied with the word cute. Then you can call me Wang Zong, and I'll call you Simba. Or I can even call you the handsome Simba. Wang Zong's eyes twinkled with cleverness and curiosity as he continued sizing up the little clown. Despite his attempts, however, at getting near the little clown, he found that no matter how much he walked, the distance between the two of them never changed. He really wanted to feel Simba's nose again. The fey trickster mulled over it for a moment. Then he discovered that it really was hard to trick this child. Fine then. Wang Zong, you have received finally good fortune. Do you want to become a mighty hero? Or an unparalleled lord under the heavens? Or perhaps, you want to become a dictator over countless numbers of people? The fey trickster's passionate voice matched his multicolored radiance, and his over-exaggerated body language made it sound as if he were a mighty hero that was worshipped by all. Yet, the wimpy kid in front of him still hadn't been stirred into immediately crying with tears of joy, nor did he shout out his wishes to become a hero. I don't want to. Wang Zong said this simple phrase after he finished enjoying the little clown's exaggerated display. He stretched out his hand again in an attempt to pinch the little clown's nose, as if to mock him. The current scene was a bit awkward as the little clown stared at Wang Zong with an unfathomable gaze. This child's expression was like an insipid cloud floating upon gentle winds, which profoundly provoked the little clown. Is this brat an idiot? Why would the fates don't pick him? Why don't you want to? You must be a fool not to. Simba anxiously spoke. If Wang Zong refused, then that would make his existence meaningless. If I don't want to, then I don't want to. Wang Zong craftily said. This is stupid. Are you trying to argue with a child? The little clown was dumbfounded, and could only blankly scratch his head. He seemed to have something to say. However, what the brat said was right. He wouldn't argue. Why did he need to argue with this brat? That's great then. You possess a rebellious spirit as I expected. Then let us agree that fate is a wooden club, so let us happily strike with it. The little clown didn't give Wang Zong a single chance to refute him, and it spewed a bunch of nonsense, even coming to a conclusion in Wang Zong's stead. The whole world was quiet, just like the day before. After a long time, Wang Zong seriously looked at the little clown and said, "Can you be my friend?" "Brat, it'll cost you a steep price if you want Simba to be your friend." The little clown vigorously nodded his head as he spoke. "I'm not afraid," Wang Zong resolutely answered. "It's a deal then. Let's shake on it to keep this promise for the next 100 years. Wang Zong extended out his hand to shake a deal with Simba. He felt that Simba's hands were a bit strange. They felt like rubber. The fey trickster didn't notice the smile at the corner of Wang Zong's mouth. For an ill child who could face death at any moment, their greatest desire would be to have a single playmate, to say nothing of this fascinating little clown. The reason he had declined before was because he was afraid. He was afraid that after making a deal with this little clown, the little clown would disappear like the characters in those fairy tales his Aunt Shirley tells him. There was no worse suffering than to be in a world of nothing but infinite darkness. After a second, the little clown's expression crumbled apart. Unexpectedly, Wang Zong had seized this chance to pinch his nose. His incredibly noble, handsome, and most important nose. Darkness soon overcame Wang Zong's gleeful smile. This was the most joyful moment he could remember as his new companion, Simba, flew back in retreat while shrieking. It turned out that being alive was actually such a happy thing. 526 NE Tianjin City, one of the 100 major cities of the Freedom Federation. The Tianjin Heroic Soul Academy was famous for its room technology. Every new school year, it was bound to be bustling with noise and excitement. Students. Come over here and take a look at the Soldier Department's top-notch society, the Immortal Rampart Society. We're recruiting new students. Don't miss an opportunity to walk your own path. Successfully become a commander in the future. A genius's camping ground, the Arbitration Society is recruiting. Hey! Check us out. This will be the first step you'll take towards glory. As long as you're talented, then you're welcome to join the Divine Eye Society, one of the 10 great societies in the Room Department. Stupid fellows, don't bother and keep to the side. Come. The entire school plaza was as lively as a food market. This was the season when everyone fought over the newly admitted students. This was the time for all the male seniors to put on their best clothes and style their hair in order to both attract new recruits and look for pretty female juniors. Furthermore, there was nothing else that motivated them more than recruitment. Hey, student. I'm the president of the Prodigy Society, one of the future 5 great societies. Joining us will be the wisest decision of your life. This place is only for those who stand out from the masses. Hey, darling junior sister, don't leave. Let this senior brother finish speaking. Student Ma Dong did his best to have an affable smile, yet those 2 junior sisters still ran away with lightning speed. Isn't the Prodigy Society blacklisted? I can't believe they still dare come and trick people. That's right. Hurry up and run away. The president looks like a hooligan and my dad said that one must be careful of false flattery from black-hearted seniors. He was definitely talking about people like that. When he saw these 2 female students run with an expression as if they were guarding against a thief, student Ma Dong felt aggrieved. Wang Zhang simply laughed at the side. You should just give up. The new student handbook is being sold everywhere and it possesses lots of detailed introductions about all of this academy societies. Laugh. Go ahead and laugh then. You're still the vice president, so you should feel a bit of responsibility, shouldn't you? Wang Zhang couldn't stop smiling. Their society only had 2 members, the president and the vice president. To be precise, their society was actually only registered as a student union, and hadn't even been approved as a society yet. Thus, they were the typical case of dark society. Hey, junior sister. Come take a look at senior brother. Don't run, junior sister. Ma Dong had worn his best outfit today. Even though he was dressed in a black rose flower suit, his flashiness was completely in shambles. Just as the junior sisters had said, he looked indecent, no matter how one looked at him. Wang Zhang also helped recruit people by handing out flyers to anyone who passed by. However, they could only sneakily try to recruit people in the corner as they weren't an official society. A society needed at least 5 people, but since none of the veterans acknowledged them, they could only try to recruit from the new students. To become a society was the dream of Ma Dong. Both Wang Zhang and Ma Dong were in the 2nd grade of Tianjin Heroic Soul Academy's Commander Division. The 2 of them shared a dorm room, but in practice, Ma Dong lived off campus. Ma Dong simply found the dorms to be too shabby for him. His dream was to establish an unrivaled society. There were many people like him, but one couldn't just use a worldly gaze in order to evaluate him. Instead of looking at his talent or his soul power, one simply looked at his personality and traits. Of course, even if his dreams were plump, reality had no need for him. Recruiting new students was their only hope. Despite the 2 of them exhausting their throats from shouting for half the day, no one bothered with them. Their throats were practically burning with rage as they crouched on the roadside, drinking large mouthfuls of water. We can't continue like this. We need to increase the scale of recruiting. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 3, halfway first place. Ma Dong's eyes were filled with a fiery anger. Wang Zhang didn't know whether to laugh or cry at this. If you have any more recruitment plans, then hurry and finish it. Don't forget that today is my birthday. You're coming over to my house for dinner tonight. See how clever my brain is. That's right, we'll just split up the work. You go and recruit in the crowded areas and I'll continue pulling people in from over here. I refuse to believe that I won't be able to recruit at least a few people with my good looks. Ma Dong stated. Wang Zhang smiled and nodded. He wouldn't be able to recruit anyone anyways. After Wang Zhang left, Ma Dong immediately got up and looked around. Although he wanted to recruit pretty and delicate junior sisters, the survival of their society was still his top priority. If he was unable to gather 5 people, then the society would be forced to disband. They wouldn't even be able to become a dark society. Ma Dong's eyes suddenly brightened and he charged towards a new student at lightning speed. After blocking the student's way, Ma Dong took a good look at him, his eyes narrowing. This guy was over 2.2 meters tall with a muscular build. He was definitely a student of the soldier department. Student, you must be new. Have you joined a society yet? The new student was stunned for a moment from having his path barred. However, he quickly recovered and revealed a smile as he nodded. Hello, senior. I am indeed a new student. My name is Baron Gestalt. I'm from Dunsquick City and haven't joined a society yet. Haha. That's perfect then. You're really lucky. It seems that my judgment of you was correct. You should enter my prodigy society. This society is a paradise for elites. Just look at one of our members, Wang Zhang. He's ranked first on the theory exams for the Commander Department. You know about the Commander Department, right? It's a paradise for experts. Ma Dong opened up a report on Wang Zhang, giving Baron Gestalt a look. However, his left hand covered up a part of the report. Ranked first. Baron Gestalt was stunned. All of the other seniors seemed to only care about the junior sisters and hadn't paid him any attention at all. What kind of outstanding society could he enter? A senior. Can I really join? Baron Gestalt stuttered in shock. You can just call me president from now on. I'll look after you. Ma Dong said pretentiously. Yes, Senator. President. I'll definitely do my best. Baron nodded. Ma Dong's whole body brimmed with happiness. No wonder so many people wanted to be president. It actually felt so good. Baron, this president shall give you your first mission. Return the table and the materials to the storehouse. I'll send the address to your skylink. Ah. President, aren't we going to continue recruiting? Baron Gestalt inquisitively asked. Ma Dong rolled his eyes. What do you think our prodigy society is? We only recruit elites. The inner qualities of our recruits are the most important. It's better to have nothing than to compromise. Baron Gestalt's face turned red from excitement. Tianjin really was a major city. Even the Heroic Soul Academy senior's moral character was better than those of smaller cities. As he watched Baron pick up the table gently, Ma Dong couldn't help but feel proud of his cleverness. The society wasn't as lacking anymore. They now had 3 members. Ma Dong disappeared like a wisp of smoke and quickly found Wang Zhang still distributing the leaflets. He stuffed the flyers back into the bag and said, "Let's go, brother. I've already recruited someone. Today's your 16th birthday, a joyous occasion. We can continue tomorrow." Wang Zhang laughed and nodded. Did you trick them by showing half my grades again? Wang Zhang was a prodigy. In middle school, he was known as the team battle tactician, attracting the attention of numerous schools. In addition to his excellent grades, he had already ignited his soul fire, allowing him to directly enter the Commander Department. However, his following development would shock everyone. The so-called genius growth potential was only at level 5. This was a level that was even lower than an average person. In other words, he was only good at theory. They had thought that he would flourish with an orthodox education, but the results had blown everyone away. Even the academy had been forced to suffer in silence. Wang Zhang had become the joke of the Commander Department. The Commander Department definitely represented elites, but in the entire academic year, Wang Zhang only had Ma Dong for a friend. The Heroic Soul Academy was composed of 4 departments with different specialties: the Commander Department, Abilities Department, Soldiers Department, and the Rune Department. The Commander Department was the cradle of officers. Every student there needed to know theory, as well as have the talent to excel in combat. Naturally, the majority of students had profound backgrounds and came from heroic soul families. The abilities department only recruited students with special abilities. After all, only a small percentage of people who had ignited their soul fire would possess a power. The department also researched the science behind these special abilities. The soldier department recruited students with outstanding growth potential in their soul power. As for the room department, they recruited students who had already ignited their soul fire, but didn't have any outstanding qualities. The room department was also the largest department, and taught the most subjects. Their studies went beyond just room technology, and were more specialized in giving support. After all, in this era, every student who had ignited their soul fire was a precious resource. Even if they weren't suited for battle, there were still many other things they could do. Naturally, all of the room department students had a heart that yearned for battle. If they were able to rank in the top 10 of the comprehensive rankings, then they would have the opportunity to change their specialization. In theory, if a student's scores were too low for their specialization, they would be forced to drop down to the room department. It was just that this had never occurred in the last 200 years. Although Ma Dong was in the commander department, his dreams weren't related to becoming a hero at all. As soon as he opened the door, a fragrant aroma assaulted his nostrils, and Ma Dong quickly scuttled inside. "Uncle Wang, this is definitely your cooking. This sweet and sour pork smells so good." A graceful woman walked over and gave a humble laugh. "Little Dong, you're here. Come sit down. Dinner will be ready in a moment. And Shirley, you're so pretty. I would be so happy if my girlfriend was even half as pretty as you." Ma Dong laughed. "Your mouth really is sweet like honey." Shirley smiled. Although she didn't put on any makeup and wore simple clothes, it was unable to conceal her inner elegance. Ma Dong wasn't naive. The reality was that even after applying makeup, those so-called upper-class ladies were still unable to match Aunt Shirley's beauty. "This guy's mouth can even make the dead come alive. I wonder who fell into his pit today," Wang Zong said. Even if he didn't know what exactly had happened, he still knew that their new recruit had been duped by Ma Dong. "Yeah, right. You're just denying my charisma." As soon as those junior sisters get one look, they immediately begin to cry and throw themselves at me. "Ah. Am I not simply an outstandingly honest person?" Ma Dong said as he unceremoniously took a piece of sweet and sour pork. Shirley couldn't help but laugh. Wherever Ma Dong was, the mood would always be lively. She gave Wang Zong a look full of affection. 10 years ago, she and Wang Zongfeng had thought that Wang Zong would die, but Wang Zong had miraculously recovered from his illness. This was the greatest gift God had given them. Their dinner was joyous and harmonious. With a buffoon like Ma Dong, the entire night was full of cheering and laughter. Wang Zongfeng had even made an exception for himself and drank some alcohol. And Shirley had never hidden the fact that Wang Zong was an orphan, and Wang Zong wasn't remorseful either. On the contrary, he found even more warmth within his home. Without any last comforting words for the night, they saw Ma Dong off and Wang Zong return to his room. He gazed out his window and gave a sigh of sorrow within his heart. He had finally reached adulthood now. Entering the Heroic Soul Academy had always been his dream. He had also the hope to solve his issue, but it seemed that there was nothing to be done. A year had gone by, and as he watched the new students trickling, Wang Zong felt pressured. After thinking it over for a moment, there was no reason to complain about his debility due to his illness. If he was lacking, then it meant that he wasn't putting in enough effort. This year, he had to do his best. Filled with similar thoughts, Wang Zong entered the land of dreams. It was still a world of darkness like before, but a rainbow streak cut through the darkness, and a smile appeared at the corner of Wang Zong's mouth. "I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance." Chapter 4, Fate Roulette. Fate Trickster Senna unexpectedly jumped out of the rainbow, flipping through the air before landing gracefully. His landing wasn't that stable, however, and he fell out of his boat. "Wang Zong, why are you so late tonight?" The little clown floated in the air as he spun in a circle, dancing and expressing his joy. "Today's my birthday, as well as the day I step into adulthood. It's fine if you don't have a birthday gift for me, but I never would have thought you'd forgotten. Come here." You lost yesterday, so let me pinch your nose now. Don't even think about going back on your promise. Wang Zhang gave Simba a big smile as he waved him over. The only reason he was able to survive and persevere through these past 10 years was because of Simba's presence. The Fate Trickster played fantastical games of every description with him. During the first 5 years, they had gone through countless eccentric drills, such as learning the language of beasts and the cultural heritage of the olden days. In the final 5 years, the Fate Trickster would transform into all sorts of monsters to play with Wang Zhang. He truly deserved the glorified name of shapeshifter. With abilities like his, he would naturally want to make some bets with Wang Zhang. With a character like Simba, Wang Zhang's dreamland had never been lonely again. Simba subconsciously retreated. Cough. Brat, of course, the Fate Trickster won't go back on his word. It's just that we have more important things to talk about today. Simba said this with a deadpan expression, but the more serious he looked, the more comical he appeared. As long as it wasn't during a trial by fire, Simba would always act in an exceptionally amusing and playful manner. You've already used this excuse many times before. But, Wang Zhang said with a smile, since we can be considered brothers, I'll listen to your so-called important matter once more. With a flip of Simba's hand, a three-dimensional image appeared depicting a key seed filled with vitality. Floating in the air, the key seed was soon enveloped by a jaw-dropping brilliance, as if it were being sealed. Afterwards, only a faint amount of ki could be detected from it. Wang Zhang twiddled his fingers while giving the clown's nose a malicious gaze. Why are you projecting my soul sea again? The consequences for ridiculing me are quite severe. Cough. Do you really take me for that kind of person? Be a bit more serious. This marvelous Fate Trickster has an important matter to talk about today, Simba said with a roll of his eyes. Everyone who awakened would possess a soul sea. The soul sea was the origin of soul power, and it was the key to accessing the power of the hyperdimension. Naturally, the soul sea was merely a name, and the average person's soul sea was only the size of a puddle. Wang Zhang was different, however, as his soul sea had actually grown to the size of a sea under the continuous nourishment of the Fate Stone. It was just that the Fate Stone wasn't truly an existence of this world, and since it violated the laws of this world, the order of the world tried to destroy it. But the Fate Stone's power exceeded imagination. When the power of order and the Fate Stone collided, it had caused the Inca tsunami. Right now, these two fantastical powers were in a state of equilibrium within Wang Zhang. The seal on this power was similar to that of withstanding the tide in a science fiction blockbuster movie. The hexagram, with the power of the worldly laws, had shrouded the Fate Stone. By coincidence, however, Wang Zhang's soul sea had also been affected, bringing about a disaster to it. It was fortunate that Wang Zhang was a living being. Under the influence of these two contradictory forces, his negligible strength was like a rock that had been cracked open, allowing the grass an opportunity to live. Similar to that rock, a crack had appeared on the seal, which gave Wang Zhang a chance at survival. It was just that the leaped soul power was pitifully little. During these last few years, Wang Zhang and Simba had tried their best to solve this issue. If they weren't able to resolve this issue, then there wasn't even a need to mention Wang Zhang's future. He would never be able to cast his heroic soul. Moreover, Simba would never be able to break free from the fetters of the Fate Stone and complete his wish of entering the real world. What have you thought of this time? Wang Zhang had spent a whole year hiding in the library, desperately searching for some solution to this problem. In the end, he turned up empty-handed. He feared that with the level these powers were on, no one in the world would be able to solve it, much less the Heroic Soul Academy. Moreover, he dared not wantonly announce his condition for fear of his safety, as most people would jump at the chance to dissect him. How has your condition inside the fifth dimension been lately? Simba asked. Wang Zhang gave him a bitter smile. You're still saying you're not ridiculing me. I've already suffered 99 consecutive defeats. At its peak, my soul power can only reach level 20. It would be useless even if I improved my techniques in the face of my opponent's defenses. I wouldn't be able to break through it either way. As long as one ignited their soul fire, the average person would have soul power of at least level 50. As for geniuses, they would be able to reach level 100 and above. Have you already forgotten about my hyper-god device? If you use my fate roulette, then you can change your fate. Extremely pleased with himself, the fate trickster stuck out his waist and his nose trembled. Are you saying the fate roulette has already absorbed enough soul essence? Wang Zong asked in surprise. Siba's mouth whitened into a grin. Your opponents are becoming weaker and weaker. Their soul essence already have barely any effect. It doesn't matter, however. The glorious fate trickster has the means. It's time for Siba to reveal his true strength. After a moment of silence, Wang Zong suddenly asked, what price are you asking for? Siba smiled. I am the magnificent fate trickster, what is such a small matter to me? Siba's eyes twinkled as he spoke. Heh. I got it. You're afraid of me pinching your nose, so you're trying to trip me now. I already know you're up to no good, just like Ma Dong. Forget about it. You don't need to feel anxious. I've just become an adult, so there's still plenty of time. Suddenly, Wang Zong discovered that his body was paralyzed. Siba fished out a roulette from his pocket that was nearly as big as him. In a flash, the entire space was cast in light and shadows. How could you possibly compare the magnificent fate trickster to the hooligan? I am the great Siba. One half of the fate roulette was darker than a black hole, while the other blazed with light. Connected to the axle was a comical clown pointer. It truly resembled Siba, yet the pointer was only charged up by 1/3. Siba had said before that once the clown pointer absorbed enough soul essence, the roulette could be spun once to alter fate. Unfortunately, it was clearly quite far off from its goal. Siba, stop messing around. We still have plenty of time. Wang Zong bellowed in rage, yet no sound was transmitted. MWAHAHA. Wang Zong, I'll let you experience the grand power of the fate trickster soon. I, Siba, have made a judgment. If the pointer lands on the light side, your soul power's level will double. If it lands on the dark side, your soul power will be reduced by half. The little clown beamed with a glittering smile while his big red nose proudly trembled. He held the fate roulette with two rigid arms. Despite how anxious Wang Zong felt, he couldn't budge a single inch. Having a soul power half basically meant nothing to him. A dead pig doesn't fear scalding water after all. But if it was doubled, then it would be a complete transformation for this combat prowess. Indeed, Wang Zong had a very clear understanding in regards to the demon known as the seal on his soul sea. Just how great would the costs be? His reasoning was simple. In order to gain something of equivalent value must be paid. Towards Wang Zong, who had always struggled against the odds with all his strength, Siba could only hold up both of his hands to cover his grimacing face. Siba is really happy. I was able to come to this world and become friends with you. This is my birthday gift to you. Fate is like a wooden club, let us cheerfully beat it together. The fate roulette's clown pointer spun crazily in circles, almost as if it were about to explode. The entire world was bathed in a constant rotation of light and darkness. Gradually, the clown pointer slowed down. The dark area was clearly more attractive towards the pointer, however. Siba's forehead dripped with sweat because the pointer's energy wasn't full, and it seemed that it would stop in the dark area. Suddenly, Siba stuck out his leg, stopping the pointer in the light area. The entire world began to tremble. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 5, Siba is here. Ah? Was it an illusion? Siba seemed to be stealing glances at him. It wasn't an illusion. The tiny Siba smirked in Wang Zong's hands. This guy had actually tripped him into crying. You? Wang Zong tearfully muttered. Noticing that Wang Zong had seen through his deceit, Siba promptly sat up. Cough cough. Wang Zong haw. No. It was just a joke. You can see I'm already so miserable. Hey. We can talk this out, alright? Don't pinch my nose, you brat. 10 o'clock in the morning. The day after. Wang Zong was startled awake. He usually woke up at 6 in the morning, but his sleep seemed especially deep last night. He'd never felt this way before. Siba? What happened to Siba? Wang Zong scratched his head. Simba had started that demonic roulette all by himself, and aside from the effects it had caused on his soul, Simba had shrunk into a palm-sized version of himself. He'd paid a steep cost to forcefully spin the roulette and now lay dormant. If they tried it again, it would likely cost his life. Wang Zong could only look after himself from now on. The crack on the seal had whitened a bit. Even though his soul power had only risen to 50 grassos, its significance was completely different for Wang Zong. What's that smell? There was a strange odor inside the house, which nearly caused him to suffocate to death. His bed sheet was stained with some demonic coloring, as if it had been soaked in sludge. Wang Zong quickly opened a window. This definitely wasn't him wetting the bed. He felt refreshed by the breeze flowing in. Although his soul power wasn't too stable at the moment, Wang Zong could still feel his body bursting with vitality. Excitedly opening the door, he let in the fragrant aroma of food. His stomach immediately rumbled in response to the smell, and he soon discovered that the table was already lined with a sumptuous breakfast, as well as a note. Little Zong, you're a real man from this day onwards. Do what you wish to do. There is no path in this world that cannot be walked by man. I brought your Aunt Shirley to go on another honeymoon. You understand how she is. She is simply too demanding to woo, and lately, I don't even think my cooking skills are able to satisfy her. A wife is the most important aspect of a man's life after all. Fight on. Young man, you are definitely a capable person. Wang Zong couldn't help but reveal a smile. Uncle Wang's attractiveness wasn't enough, so he needed to use a few days to supplement it. It had truly been hard on the two of them these past few years. Wang Zong had to also do his best. He quickly wrote a letter in reply to them. After finishing breakfast, Wang Zong made a mad dash back to school. He treated this as tempering himself. In any case, he didn't have any classes today, but still needed to think of a way to recruit more members for their prodigy society. As he made his way back to the academy, Wang Zong began to notice that his perception of the world had changed drastically. His footsteps were light and quick, his surroundings clear, and it almost seemed as if he could perceive breathing coming from the vegetation he passed. Unfortunately, Wang Zong hadn't looked in the mirror, otherwise he would have seen that his previously weak and muddy-looking eyes had become as deep as an ocean. As soon as he arrived, he saw Ma Dong with a robust young man doing their best to shout out their recruitment slogans. It seems that this was the pitiful child who'd been deceived by Ma Dong. Baron, your idol has arrived. This here is the vice president of our society, Wang Zong, Ma Dong said. Baron immediately walked over and bowed. With that head of his, however, it created a truly threatening atmosphere. Greetings, senior. My name is Baron Gestalt, the newest member of the Prodigy Society. Please advise this junior. Wang Zong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He truly didn't know who was supposed to advise who here. After seeing Baron's stature, he feared that Baron should be considered an excellent student from the soldier department. Ma Dong winked at him from the side, as if to say, isn't Big Bro here awesome? Despite the addition of Baron, they still weren't able to pull the Prodigy Society out of its embarrassing state. In comparison to their simple and crude society, the other societies were like 100 flowers in bloom. They had handsome senior brothers and beautiful senior sisters. They even had pretty recruitment presentations and rows upon rows of society achievements to show off. Only someone like Baron could be duped into joining a society like the Prodigy Society. All of a sudden, all of the students bustled with noise and excitement as they all flocked towards the east. It's senior sister Natasha. It really is senior sister Natasha. The two senior sisters from Black Rose, Natasha and Milami, have arrived. Wang Zong and Ma Dong looked at each other in dismay, then helplessly shook their heads and forced out a smile. Natasha had been an influential figure from the very moment she had entered the academy, and was known as the genius of the commander department. Rumor has it that she was also the daughter of the academy's president. Black Rose was one of the 4 great societies. During her first year in the society, she had already took up the position as its vice president. Since the previous president had graduated this year, Natasha had now taken over the role as the president of Black Rose. With Natasha now in charge, the Black Rose Society seemed even more grand and magnificent. On the popularity rankings, there truly wasn't any society capable of competing with the Black Rose Society. Pow! What's so amazing about them? Inevitably, the day will come when our prodigy society becomes the fifth great society. Student Ma Dong bravely said these sour words. It could be said that the only reason he had founded the Prodigy Society was because he had been rejected by the Black Rose Society time and time again. Hey, members of the Prodigy Society. This lady here wants to join your society. A melodious voice called out. Wang Zhang's trio turned their heads simultaneously, and was met with the sight of a pretty girl with short blonde hair. She wasn't too tall, but she was unusually well proportioned. Her large, spirited eyes blinked a few times. Ma Dong's mouth gaped open. Why did she appear here? The girl walked over with a smile. As she walked over, Ma Dong opened his arms wide, but she just walked right past him. She instead walked over to Wang Zhang and gave him a big hug. Big brother Wang Zhang, long time no see. Do you still remember Emily? Wang Zhang awkwardly put his arm around her. Who could forget someone as cute as you, Emily? I'm just wondering why you're here. Ma Dong unhappily pulled on Emily's collar from the side. Little girl, understand clearly that I'm your elder cousin. We're related by blood. Emily gave Ma Dong a blank look. You're dishonest, Ma Dong. Uncle already told me all about you and how I shouldn't learn from your example. As soon as she mentioned his father, Ma Dong became terrified. He suddenly thought of a question. Why are you here? You're so slow. Of course I'm a new student here at the Tianjin Heroic Soul Academy. I was specially recruited. Emily straightened her posture, sticking her non-existent chest out, making her seem very adorable. Heavens! With your soul power growth rate of 9.2 and your flame ability, you had actually ended up here. St. Mengel City is much better than our city. Your decision will make St. Mengel's Academy president cry in the toilet. Ma Dong laughed. This could be considered a helping hand from the heavens. Every single Heroic Soul Academy would fight with their all for a genius such as Emily. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 6, Black Rose Baron, hurry up and give student Emily a form to fill out. It's just as I said in the past, our Prodigy Society is only made up of elites. With her growth rate of 9.2, she just barely meets the requirements needed to join us. As Ma Dong began speaking in a pretentious manner, Baron Gestalt had a look of worship painted all over his face. The president is truly too awesome. With a growth rate of only 7, Baron Gestalt couldn't possibly compare with Emily. In general, a rating of 4 and lower was considered bad, 6 and 7 were considered average, 8 was considered excellent, while 9 and up was considered genius. Only those with a rating of 9 or higher would have their growth rate tested by the decimal point. Ma Dong cared not one whit for Emily's reasons for coming as he pressed her to immediately fill out the form. With the addition of Emily, it would be akin to transforming his Prodigy Society from a birdie shotgun to a cannon. At this moment, a flock of people advanced on them. They headed by Natasha and Milani. Ma Dong clutched his butt. He would normally be excited to have an opportunity to meet these goddesses, but at this moment, he'd clearly seen their predatory gazes towards Emily. Excuse me, but might you be student Emily? I am the Black Rose Society's president, Natasha, and this is the vice president, Milani. Natasha gave her a humble smile as she spoke neither too quickly, nor too slowly. Her long, light purple hair matched her graceful temperament, allowing her to immediately captivate everyone. She was exactly like a goddess. Ma Dong had already forgotten the words stuck in his throat as his gaze unwaveringly landed on the goddess's chest. These curves truly make people go crazy over them. Student Emily, our Black Rose Society is the best society on campus. You'll improve the most if you join us, as well as make many new friends. Do you really want to join the Prodigy Society, which doesn't even have the student union's approval and could get disbanded at any time? Vice President Milani was a big over 170 centimeters tall and wore a pair of black frame glasses. Her whole being gave off the feeling of inflexibility and seriousness. As one of the people in charge at the Black Rose Society, she had been given the nickname of Mother. Vice President Milani, you can't say things like that. Our Prodigy Society is still exceptionally Ma Dong wasn't the type of person to take an offense lying down, and attempted to forcefully interrupt her. But then he remembered that Melanie was an official of the student union. His little existence was completely at her mercy. Emily listlessly looked at the two before waving her hand. "I'm not interested. I'm already joining the Prodigy Society." Melanie's expression wrinkled into a scowl. There wasn't anyone in the academy who dared to speak to her like this. This little girl was truly a bit mad. "Student Wang Zong, your battle control skill theory and room life hypothesis are exceptionally unique. Do you have any interest in joining Black Rose?" Natasha suddenly asked, paying no mind to Emily's refusal at all. Ma Dong's expression immediately darkened. What did she just say? The surrounding students were also in an uproar. Everyone knew that the Black Rose Society's treatment was good, and it had many beautiful women. It also had the highest requirements necessary for entry. Every single member of theirs was an influential figure within their department. Yet, she had actually invited trash like Wang Zong. "President, I oppose this. This guy is the shame of the commander department. Who knows how long it will be before he's transferred to a different department. We definitely can't accept him." Melanie ruthlessly opposed. Whispered gossip began among those in the know and those who weren't. Soon after, news of Wang Zong's situation spread to everyone. When some of them learned of his situation, a trace of pity appeared as they looked at him. His talents were so high, yet he suffered from an illness that caused his soul power to be chaotic and uncondensed. It was just like an ordinary person whose power could only make his muscles twitch. He truly was a tragic character. Contrary to expectations, Wang Zong simply responded with a smile of indifference. "Many thanks to President Natasha, but I still think that the Prodigy Society is the best fit for me." Off to the side, Melanie gave a cold snort. "It's a good thing he responded tactfully. If he had been more daring, then he would have been as good as dead." Natasha regretfully nodded. Despite her position as the society's president, she couldn't do much to oppose Melanie. "All right then. Anyone who isn't joining our society can leave now. This place isn't a supermarket." Emily was already beginning to shoo everyone off, beginning with Melanie. Melanie shot Emily a quick glance. "You will definitely regret your choice today. President, let's not waste any more time here." Once the goddesses left, the doors to the Prodigy Society cleared up once again. The few people that had originally been attracted by Emily's entry into their society were not a problem, but such a disturbance would give the Prodigy Society a headache for days. Who didn't know that senior sister Melanie also had the nickname of Viper Spinster? Catching our attention would bring nothing but trouble. Even Natasha was a bit wary of her. Emily was just barely able to enter their academy as a special recruit after having gone through a series of in-depth tests. Due to this, Ma Dong immediately packed up a stolen fear of others coming to try and seduce Emily away from them. Even if you used money to recruit people, it would be like collecting bits and pieces to make a whole. But with Emily's strength, his Prodigy Society finally had hope. Wang Zong was reading in the library as usual, but today he felt jittery. He felt as though his whole being was different. For most people, that amount of soul power would change little, but for Wang Zong it had completely transformed him. He put away the book and headed towards the OP training building that was next door to the library. OP system. Its meaning was to transcend perfection. Igniting one's soul power was only the first step. The most important thing was the ability to cast one's heroic soul. Once one's heroic soul took a form, their soul power would experience an exponential increase and they would receive an explosive soul-dominating skill. Furthermore, those who cast their heroic soul would definitely become one of the elites within the Heroic Soul Academy. In the last few years, Tianjing's standard hovered around 8 or 9 as there was little pressure on them. Due to this, many students lost their chance to become an elite and could only helplessly enter the ordinary army or take part in supply logistics work after graduation. In order to form their heroic soul, every student would use every possible method to refine their soul power and technique. Once their heroic soul was condensed, there was only one method left to further improve: battle. One couldn't help but mention the scientist from the Freedom Federation, Charlton Copernicus, when it came to the OP system. Charlton Copernicus's dream had been to become a genius superhero, but due to his ordinary combat talent, there wasn't anyone who wanted to spar with him. Due to his inability to gain combat experience, he was ultimately unable to cast his heroic soul. For the saga of his dream, Charlton abandoned the martial way and integrated room power into the virtual reality technology from olden times in order to create a battle simulator. The result was completely unexpected. The fifth dimension, commonly referred to as the soul space, was created. In modern times, it carried the OP system, created by Golan Grasso, another great scientist that had changed the world. OP was realized due to the fifth dimension. Its entire maintenance system and energy system was organized by the suprafinancial groups of the cities of the Freedom Federation. The system made it easy for students to cast their heroic souls and refine their battle techniques, bringing out the best achievements from their heroic souls. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 7, Battle in a Rookie Soul Power was the key to entering the OP world, a paradise for heroic soul cultivators. The law of the fifth dimension meant that while it was equal to true combat experience in that world, one couldn't truly die there. Of course, the sensations within the OP system were completely real, including the experience of death. These feelings were definitely not easy to endure. In the days when the uncivilized great empires grew, the conservative federation began to decline. Thus, the empires coveted inherited natural resources of the Federation. The advent of the OP system, however, restored the imbalance of power to an equilibrium. Even now, the OP system was undoubtedly the number one thought on the minds of youngsters. Wang Zong had been using OP for over a year now, and had a gorgeous record. In 1 year, he had fought 99 matches in the OP system, which wasn't unusual. However, 99 consecutive defeats was a completely different matter. The reason why he had struggled his hardest every single match was to cause his opponent to release as much of their battle skills as possible. This was so that the Fate Roulette could absorb as much soul essence as possible. Wang Zong gave himself the ID Almighty King 1 in OP. In fact, he used this name because it gave off a sense of hope. Since Simba would often talk about the path of kings, Wang Zong came up with this ideal name, but, as a result, it had now become a giant farce, a joke that circulated within the school. Wang Zong poured his soul power into the rune array, thus entering the fifth dimension. The idea of Almighty King appeared within the system. Ah! Brothers, quickly come look. Almighty King has arrived. Hurry up and kneel. Fuck! Why didn't you come yesterday, Brother King? 1 day apart truly seems like 3 years. Unfortunately, our accomplishments can't even compare to Brother King's. How could a loser be qualified to battle Brother King? You pack of dregs, immediately kneel. The OP system had a very convenient and fast communication platform. After battling for over a year, Almighty King had already become a clown-like existence. Many newcomers to the OP system became confident after facing Almighty King. People often said that having a good start was half the key to being successful. With this in mind, Wang Zong had done many good deeds. For Wang Zong, however, this had made him very miserable. Wang Zong was already accustomed to being ridiculed from all sides and immediately entered a match with an opponent. In regards to selecting the extremely important weapon of a heroic soul soldier, he picked one at random, per the usual. To him, all weapons were the same. It was like this before, and it was still like this now. Brother King is still as indifferent as before. Look, look. This is the so-called heir of a king. I will keep fighting despite all setbacks. You pack of dregs would do good to learn from me. How confident. There isn't anyone in OP who could compare with your confidence. I don't know who could be worthy of being Brother King's opponent, but today is the start of school. The rookies are truly blessed. In reality, all those watching Wang Zong's battle were of the lower ranks. Those 10 or so people simply looked for some amusement from Wang Zong. Those with a high level of talent would watch the battle between experts instead. With accordance to the victory rate and number of battles, the OP system divided participants into several divisions: Cannon Fodder, Brave, Elite, and Sanctuary. Wang Zong quickly found an opponent, future Gong King. 0 victories, Cannon Fodder Division. His opponent was clearly new, which was unsurprising to Wang Zong. With his stats, the only opponents he could face were those new to the OP system. If the creator of the OP system, Dr. Charlton, saw the tragic side of his battle stats, he would most definitely weep. His opponent chose the common room pistol. It seemed he was a long-ranged fighter. The OP system had all sorts of rune weapons. They were unrestricted, but there weren't any additional effects to these weapons. When soldiers picked their weapon, they would pick the most suitable one for themselves. As for Wang Zong, his random selection left him empty-handed. Moreover, Wang Zong was quite nervous. Even a dagger would have been better. The two soldiers entered standby mode. The 10 or so spectators, who had been idle for so long that their asses were in pain, were suddenly full of spirit. When they were feeling down, they would always regain their confidence after watching Almighty King's clumsy battles. The mood suddenly changed when they saw Brother King full of confidence despite being empty-handed. He truly had the airs of an unrivaled tyrant under the heavens. Future Gong King and Almighty King both appeared on stage, the two of them selecting the system face. Future Gong King didn't appear to be in a good mood. Perhaps he was dissatisfied with having Wang Zong as his opponent. He didn't greet Wang Zong when he came on stage, and instead immediately rushed over with his gun. Wang Zong dodged without thought, but his opponent's gun had been aimed at the pit of his stomach the whole time. The gun was both fast and fierce. If this had been the Wang Zong of the past, his reaction would have been too slow. He clearly knew what to do, but his body wouldn't have been able to keep up. Having such a helpless exchange would infuriate the toughest of people. This time, however, Wang Zong felt as though he was completely in sync with the environment and his body moved exactly as he wished. Unexpectedly, he had been able to magically dodge the attack. His opponent was also stunned. Even if shooting at the center of a person's body was the least lethal, it was the most difficult to avoid. Normally, a rune pistol relied on frequent burst shots to kill the opponent. Without a trace of hesitation, he unleashed 3 shots at Wang Zong. The shots were so fast that it almost sounded like a single shot. Wang Zong continuously dodged, evading each of the 3 shots by a hair's breadth. Wang Zong's heart surged with ecstasy. Simba has really done it. With soul-powered 50 Grasso, he was finally able to carry out all sorts of battle maneuvers without failure. That familiar feeling returned. The freedom he felt in his dreamland had finally returned to his body. It felt as though his body was practically flying. The spectators were actually laughing. God, if even Brother King could dodge this marksmanship, then what kind of crappy level was he at? Could this be the legend? There isn't a crappiest, only crappier. The 10 or so spectators were in a gleeful mess. Although Future Gong King seemed to be enduring it, anyone with a discerning eye would be able to see that his eyes were full of fury. Bang bang bang. This time, he shot out 3 restrictive type bullets. In ordinary circumstances, long-ranged soldiers would do their best to keep their distance. This brother, however, had let his anger go to his head and was now attempting to close the distance in order to raise his accuracy. This definitely reflected his lack of self-confidence. Wang Zong didn't dare move recklessly as the restricted type shots exploded out and sped towards him. Rather than dodging recklessly, he moved sideways while twisting his body into an arc. The 3 shots missed. The spectating brothers once again burst into laughter. There was finally a brother who could be considered the Almighty King's equal. Maybe the 2 of them were actually blood-related brothers. Future Gong King was evidently thoroughly infuriated. He actually threw his gun at Wang Zong. All of the spectators were bent over laughing. This had to be history's most amusing battle. A sharpshooter had actually thrown away his gun. Future Gong King charged towards Wang Zong with large strides. At some point, the number of spectators had grown to over 30 members. They all had to pay a few credits in order to watch the battles of others, but now, they definitely felt that it was worth the admission fee. They were truly too happy. Wang Zong actually felt a completely different kind of murderous spirit. If it was said that his opponent's marksmanship had no oppressive power, then that opponent's charge now made him seem like a fierce tiger. Could it be that his true specialty was actually close combat? Bang! Future Gong King suddenly exploded forwards with an explosive rumble. His entire person arrived in front of Wang Zong in a flash, with a fist as oppressive as MT. Tai booming towards him. In a flash, everyone quieted down. The sound of his dash wasn't ordinary at all. Maybe it was because they had been laughing excessively, but none of the spectators had been able to see their movements clearly. 1. This is a pun on his name. In the Ra, it's Skiongwangs, which means strong-mouth king. This is a pun on Suakiongwangs, which means strongest king. Almighty King is supposed to sound like Almighty King, thus making a bad pun. Credit to user Matt in the comments below for thinking up of a decent way to express this pun. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 8, Actor. In the next second, however, future Gong King's tyrannical fist stopped in midair. He had suddenly frozen in place. Then he fell over with white eyes, as if he'd just seen a demon. Almighty King, victory. After 3 seconds, all of the spectators burst into laughter. This guy is truly an actor. That dash of his scared me just now, but it seems he's just a paper tiger. That performance was too good. What an acting emperor. He should have at least let Brother King punch him a few hundred times before toppling over, though. Heh. With Brother King's strength, I'd be worried if he could even throw 100 punches before the match was finished. Not a single word escaped Wang Zong's mouth as he quietly logged out of the OP system. He leaned against the wall, silently staring at his hands. His previously weak and powerless hands were now brimming with power. With soul-powered 50 Grasso, as long as he had enough combat skill and was able to attack their weak points, he would be able to break through his opponent's defenses. This meant he could fight even stronger opponents now. He could then let the Fate Roulette absorb even better energy. Instead of a Soul Sea, the little clown, Simba, was sleeping just as peacefully as before. It seemed he'd sensed Wang Zong's good mood, however, as the corner of his mouth moved to reveal the faintest trace of a smile. A knowing smile appeared on Wang Zong's face. Simba, thank you for your birthday present. At that moment, in one of the 100 major cities of the Freedom Federation, Copperfield City, exaggerated laughter filled the OP system training grounds of the city's heroic Soul Academy. A curly-haired youngster was bent over laughing, doing his best to not topple onto the floor. He couldn't stop his tears as he said, I'm going to die. I'm going to die of laughter. Ah. That has to be the best battle of the year. This powerful berserker, the super genius of Copperfield, Endler, lost to a single punch. MWAHAHA. You've blinded my titanium dog eyes. 1. At the side, an energetic-looking girl in skin-tight clothing smiled. That battle was a bit amusing. A bare-chested youngster walked out of the OP room. He wasn't particularly tall, but his entire body brimmed with explosive strength. This was precisely the Copperfield Academy Soldier Division idol. He was the vanguard of the Mad Beast Battle Squadron. Seeing Endler come out, the brother was still rolling on the ground with laughter. With one hand on his belly, and the other pointing at Endler, he said, You, what kind of no good are you up to? A berserker soul body can jump thousands of miles in a single leap, yet you went against reason and practiced marksmanship. Ha. Do you know who your opponent was? He's known as the King of Noobs. In all his 99 losses, his only win is against the magnificent Mad Beast Vanguard. I'm dying. I'm dying of laughter. Ha. Faced with the ridicule of his teammate, the short-tempered Endler actually remained silent. He wore an odd expression on his face, as if he were still pondering on something. Off to the side, the sexy Laura's smile gradually vanished. Endler. Don't mind it so much. It's good that you wanted to expand the scope of your skills, but everyone has their own specialties. Arnold Totten sat up from the floor. Younger brother, if you were any good at long-ranged combat, then I won't have rice to eat anymore. Don't be like this, alright? Endler remained as silent as before. He turned on his Skylink, and instantly, an image of the just downloaded battle was projected. The issue was the final strike. Even though he had thrown away his firearm, Endler was still a powerful berserker. Who could possibly take him down with a single strike? This was basically impossible. Laura and Arnold Totten had smiles exploding with glee. They both thought Endler had flown into a rage due to his humiliation and had been forcefully logged out. With 5 times slower replay speed, however, they were able to see that Enler's quick and violent dash had completely sealed off all avenues of escape for his opponent. He had thrown out a fierce punch, one which many would find hard-pressed to endure. Despite this, that all-mouthy king hadn't retreated at that time, but rather, he had directly met Enler head-on. All-mouthy king had turned 30 degrees and done a reverse attack, launching an elbow directly into Enler's lower jaw. This had caused the power of Enler's punch and his elbow strike to layer upon one another, increasing the strike's power to the point where it had even caused Enler's tyrannical body to faint. He had been completely unable to retaliate. He only used 50 grassos of soul power. One word after another slowly made its way out of Enler's mouth. His words were full of naked loathing. If one used such a low amount of soul power in a duel, then it was basically saying, "I can beat you effortlessly." The room was silent. Fuck. This bastard is just mocking you. Could someone be substituting for him? Arnold Toyton loudly exclaimed. Although he had never interacted with All-Mouthy King, he had still watched a video of one of his battles last month. Simply put, it was a new becoming a dog. Because his videos were usually amusing, it would often get into the top rankings of one of the video listings in OP, the funny videos list. Laura glared at Arnold Toyton. This was clearly an idiotic question. Anyone could register for multiple accounts, but they wouldn't be able to let others use those accounts. I have to have a match-up with him again, Andrew solemnly stated. Regardless of who his opponent was, as the vanguard of the Mad Beast Battle Squadron, he definitely couldn't lose in such a dubious way. The barest hint of a smile appeared at the corner of Laura's mouth. Not bad. You're a bit like a man after all. If you can beat him, then I'll agree to go on a date with you. Enler was taken aback, but his eyes soon began to shine. Captain, will you really do so? If I, Laura, say so, how can it not be so? Off to the side, Arnold Toyton immediately shot up and said in reproach, "Captain, that's not fair. How come only he gets that kind of opportunity? I want a chance too." Ever since the two started school, they had been chasing after Laura. Despite their best efforts, neither had succeeded. Yet. Laura revealed a faint smile. "I'll go out on a date with whoever wins. However, if you two lose, I'll have you be my training partner for a month since I've just finished a new technique." At the thought of their captain's dreadful scolding, the two of them immediately broke into a cold sweat. Despite this, they quickly calmed themselves as they were absolutely confident they could defeat All-Mouthy King. "I wish you two the best of luck," Laura said before heading off to the gravity room, not forgetting to wave goodbye as she left. That sexy figure of hers simply burst with infinite allure. After a second, Arnold Toyton and Enler glanced at each other before they both ran to the OP room at lightning speed. They hastily added Brother King as a friend and requested a battle. Unfortunately, Wang Zhang had already left. 1. Some sort of meme in the Chinese World of Warcraft community. It's used in mockery when netizens see something retarded. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 9, Angelic Man with an OP. Wang Zhang closed his eyes and reflected upon that final strike just now. It seemed to him that everything had gone pretty well, but the reality was, he had made many mistakes in that battle. His evasive maneuvers had been too stiff, and his thoughts had also been too fragmented, which made his heart rather restless. There was also an issue with his final attack. The only reason he had to use his elbow to attack was because he hadn't given himself enough room to unleash his full strength. His reaction had been slow by too much, about 0.2 seconds. Logically, with the gaps in his opponent's attack that had been quite large, he should have took advantage of them and yielded the best results. One couldn't say for certain if doing so would have resulted in his opponent's death rather than simply knocking him unconscious. After that battle, Wang Zhang went to the gravity room and began training his body. His body had suffered from an illness in his childhood, which had engraved the importance of a strong body into Wang Zhang's heart. Although his soul power had perplexed him these last few years, he had never fallen behind on physical training. School had just started, so regardless of whether they were new students or upper-year students, none of them held much concern in their heart. After all, everyone was still brimming with the aura of vacation. There wasn't a single soul inside within the gravity room. In his first year, two-fold gravity had given Wang Zhang trouble, but now, he wasn't even pressured under three-fold gravity. His soul power surged to the surface of his body and withstood the external pressure. In fact, Wang Zhang realized that, although his maximum soul power output was low, his soul C was so enormous that no one that could possibly hope to contend with him in that regard. After training under three-fold gravity for half an hour, Wang Zhang was drenched in sweat all over and his entire body felt refreshed. Every single cell in his body felt as though they were filled with some boundless energy. He truly felt completely different from his previously weak and powerless self. The difference was as huge as the gap between the sky and the earth. Wang Zhang checked the time before walking over to the four-fold gravity area. Wang Zhang's body reacted a slight bit to the pressure. He continued on to the five-fold gravity region and only now did his body begin to feel heavy. He knew that this would be his upper limit for now. He opened the door and, unexpectedly, there was someone else in there. There was someone in the five-fold gravity region doing push-ups, their soul power steadily rising and falling. The other person also hadn't expected someone to come to the five-fold gravity area at that time. Standing up and inspected Wang Zhang before exposing a glittering smile, the person said, "Hello, senior." Although he was a man, Wang Zhang couldn't help but gasp in surprise. This brother was handsome to the point of shocking him. The most important thing was that he wasn't overbearing at all, but rather, he had the aura of an angel. This was definitely the state Ma Dong was chasing after. "I hope I didn't disturb you. I didn't think anyone would be in here." Wang Zhang smiled. This new student actually had such an astonishing body. He was most likely a special recruit. "Of course you haven't. My name is Gregor Crissid. I'm from Ethel City. I'm a new student in the Commander Department. How may I address you, senior?" After sizing Wang Zhang up, Greg's eyes were full of curiosity. Wang Zhang was stunned for a moment. "My name is Wang Zhang. I'm also in the Commander Department. Ethel City is one of the top 10 cities in the Freedom Federation, so how did you end up here?" "I'm very interested in runes and Tianjin is the best in the field of rune technology. It seems I was ignorant and inexperienced. Tianjin Academy truly does have crouching tigers and hidden dragons," Gray said as he looked at the person in front of him. This person's strength was unfathomably deep. "Please take care of me, senior." Wang Zhang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How could he possibly take care of this kind of genius? "I'll stop disturbing your training then. I hope you'll make many gains here at Tianjin Academy." Tianjin Heroic Soul Academy specialized in rune forging technology. In fact, they were the leaders in this field within the Freedom Federation. Quite a few geniuses came from other cities just to study this topic. Wang Zhang shut the door. From beginning to end, Gray had maintained a slight smile, as if he were looking down on Tianjin. Suddenly, Gray's smile froze. How could this be? Inside of the five-fold gravity room, he had been using his soul power to protect his body, but that person just now... Wang Zhang had already returned to his dorm and taken a delightful cold bath. Ma Dong was absent from the dorm as usual. In the year since the two brothers had lived together, Ma Dong had only stayed in their dorm 3 or 4 times. After reading a book for a while, Wang Zhang went to bed and slept. He was soon sound asleep and soft snoring sounds occasionally broke the silence. Early in the morning, Wang Zhang was woken up by the ringing of a skylight. Wang Zhang, where are you? Hurry up and come to the plaza." "Damn it! Today's the day when fate decides the future of our prodigy society." Ma Dong's voice sounded loudly out from the skylight. He seemed brimming with a desire to do battle. Emily was a powerful recruit that enabled the confident Ma Dong to get in over his head. He had taken up position early in the morning. This was the final day for societies to recruit new members, and the student union will evaluate the qualifications of each society once classes started. It was usually a normal yearly occurrence, but this time, that which Millennium had given them an ultimatum: gather enough members or disband. They were only short one person now. For this final day, they had to recruit at least one more member no matter what. By the time Wang Zhang arrived, the school plaza was already bustling with a vast crowd. After a whole day's worth of shouting, they hadn't been able to recruit any unattached new students. All of those students had goals of their own after all. The problem was that the other societies in their surroundings were filled with people, yet the Prodigy Society was completely deserted. Ma Dong gloomily sat on the side. Only Baron, that big lud, had the energy to continue shouting. What happened? You were full of energy just a moment ago, and now you're all depressed. Despicable, shameless, such a bully. Ma Dong indignantly said. That old witch Milani. Everyone knew that the Black Rose wanted Emily and that the Prodigy Society was bound to be dissolved. Anyone who joined the Prodigy Society at this time would be making an enemy out of the Black Rose Society. Wang Zhang was distracted for a moment. Where's Emily? She said she has a test. Wang Zhang, what do you think we should do? Should we go talk to Milani and let her dissolve our Prodigy Society? Ma Dong asked. Wang Zhang shook his head. We're only missing one person. I don't believe we won't be able to find even one person who's willing. An hour later, Wang Zhang and Ma Dong once again realized the disparity between their society and the others. There really wasn't a single person who was the least bit interested in them. Wang Zhang, just let it be. After offending the Black Rose Society, our days won't be good either. Besides, a real man doesn't fight with women. Let's just let them have their way. Wang Zhang shook his head and Ma Dong released a long sigh. This brother of his might seem easygoing, but he was actually stubborn to death. Do you guys the Prodigy Society? Right at that moment, two people appeared in front of the Prodigy Society's booth. Ma Dong quickly stood up, but he turned cold as soon as he saw the logo on their chest. The two of them were part of Holy Judgment, one of the Academy's 4 great societies. It was the strongest society in the soldier department. What business do you guys have? I'm the president, Ma Dong. The slightly taller one of the two exposed an arrogant smile. I am Lu Zhantian of Holy Judgment. If you have Emily join our society, then we'll help you make up the 2 people you're short of. Ma Dong had already heard of Lu Zhantian's name. He was the president of Holy Judgment. Unexpectedly, they were also looking to recruit Emily. Ma Dong was just trying to start his Prodigy Society. What the heck did he do to deserve this? Ma Dong also had a devilish temper. He could compromise with beautiful girls, but he had no interest in men. I'm sorry, but Emily has no interest in joining Holy Judgment. Lu Zhantian hadn't expected Ma Dong to not know how to appreciate a favor. There were many people watching, so it wasn't a good idea to flare up. Instead, he simply directed a burning glare at Ma Dong. Are you sure? I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 10, The Prodigy Society is established. Definitely, rest assured. If worst comes to worst, the Prodigy Society will just disband. Ma Dong shrugged his shoulders. Damn, these people really think this big bro can be threatened. At worst, I'll just disband the society. Ma Dong, do you understand what it means to reject both Holy Judgment and Black Rose? The person standing to Lu Zhantian's side spoke out. Ma Dong smiled. Brothers, have some emotional intelligence. I have already refused, yet you're still using such childish methods to threaten me. Fellow students, did you hear it clearly? Holy Judgment is bullying people. What, do you guys still want to hit me? Immediately, Lu Zhantian's expression blackened. He glared at the fool beside him and shouted, "We're leaving." After everyone left, Ma Dong plopped his butt onto the ground. Ah, this foul mouth of his. That moment of bragging had quickly passed by, and now he had to figure out what to do in the future. With things like this, no one else would be coming to join the Prodigy Society. The strong were respected within the heroic Soul Academy after all. The Prodigy Society was too small to even survive in the cracks. They were destined to disband sooner or later. Despite their dire straits, Wang Zhang was still extremely supportive of Ma Dong. They were only short one person, so they might as well strive their hardest in the end. At worst, they would simply have to disband. With these thoughts in mind, Wang Zhang and Barajestrud continued their shouting with renewed energy. Unfortunately, the news of this recent event had quickly spread through the sky like. Who would possibly want to join the Prodigy Society now? In a flash, it was noon. The three of them were sitting on the curb downing large mouthfuls of water. Only Baron Gestalt was still in high spirits. This brother was extremely pure and truly admired his two seniors for not submitting to force. "Excuse me, is this the Prodigy Society? I would like to join." Right at that moment, a heavenly voice called out like an oasis to the trio's desert. Ma Dong stood with lightning speed. Fuck. What entered his eyes was an exceptionally handsome smile. Damn it, is this guy trying to suppress the president's magnificence? At that moment, however, he couldn't care less about that. Wang Zong was stunned while the other person gave him a glittering smile in response. "Senior, we've met again. I want to join the Prodigy Society. Is that possible?" Ma Dong gave the two of them a suspicious look. "This guy, he couldn't possibly be a gigolo, could he? Come here and let me see your entrance test form," Ma Dong said. Procedures were procedures after all. Chris nodded, opened up his Skylink, and transmitted his school report over to Ma Dong. The moment after, Ma Dong stood petrified. Next to him, Baron Gestalt's jaw dropped low. Is he the rumored guy? Among the new students, he was placed first in theory, had a soul power growth rate of 9.5, and was also first place in actual combat. Was this guy a monster? The Chris from Metal City. Ma Dong shoved Wang Zong to the side and said with an ass-kissing smile, "Student Gray, welcome to the Prodigy Society. This is definitely the wisest decision you'll ever make." "I feel the same way. Senior Wang Zong, I hope you will guide me well," Gray said with a smile. Wang Zong rubbed his nose. Regardless, the Prodigy Society's crisis had been averted. "What did you say?" Chris had joined the Prodigy Society. Milami angrily stood up. The two brightest students in the eyes of all societies had unexpectedly joined the Prodigy Society. What on earth was happening? "Yes, senior sister. Just a while ago, Holy Judgment had caused a ruckus with them, but that Ma Dong had been unyielding. Afterward, Chris had joined them." The girl spoke excitedly, her eyes full of stars. That Chris was truly too handsome. Way too handsome. Milami repeatedly banged on her desk. There wasn't anything she could do now. Gary and Emily were powerful recruits, so the Prodigy Society would no longer be an easy target. She just couldn't comprehend it at all. Why would two high-level students join a society as crappy as the Prodigy Society? Noon. In high spirits, President Ma Dong decided to invite everyone to a dinner party. After all, the Prodigy Society finally had enough people. Baron Gestalt looked at his president with eyes full of admiration. Of the three recruits, he was the weakest. He would definitely have to do his best to catch up. He couldn't disappoint his president. Thus, the Prodigy Society satisfied the minimum requirements to become a small battle squad. Emily would act as an assassin, using her name bombs to explode in close-quarters combat. Baron had just the right physique to act as their immediate shield. As the president, Ma Dong would naturally be the core of their team. Wang Zong had been a long-ranged fighter since his first year. His body just hadn't been able to keep up with the rhythm of battle. A long-ranged fighter had been one of his better options. Only the genius Gray could be used to fill any lacking position. Nobody objected to the positions Ma Dong decided. In fact, Gray's smile grew even wider. So someone who can casually smile under the pressure of fivefold gravity is actually a long-range marksman. Naturally, every single heroic soul soldier had their own secrets and habits, and it was considered rude to pry into these matters. Gray simply thought that it would be very interesting to join the Prodigy Society and hadn't found Wang Zong strange at all. With Gray's circumstances, he would definitely be able to join any society he wished, but that wouldn't challenge him at all. In the afternoon, Ma Dong excitedly went to the student union to go through the procedure of becoming an official society. To him, this was the day his life finally gained some meaning. While this was happening, all of the departments were holding their own meetings and course selection was beginning. Course selection was extremely important since each department only had a small number of required courses, leaving the majority up to the student's choice. Although the four departments had defining features, they each still shared courses in the first 3 years. Wang Zhang had taken many courses in his first year, which had naturally caused his grades to suffer a bit. He had even failed in his specialty, archery. There were many courses to choose from as a long-ranged soldier. There were cold weapons, the bow and arrow, and mechanical room guns. In terms of might, room firearms were naturally fiercer and faster. Normally, however, long-ranged soldiers would start practicing with a bow and arrow. This way, they would be able to improve their control of soul power. Ah! Baron, with a physique like yours, you must diligently practice being a shield. It will be an unyielding barrier. Ma Dong was showing off his insight at this moment. With Baron Gestolt's large and sturdy body, he was definitely well suited to being a tower shield soldier. Currently, all mainstream battle formations absolutely needed to have an excellent defensive expert. Baron Gestolt earnestly took Ma Dong's words to heart. Societies acted to bridge the gap between those of different ages and exchange knowledge. Senior students undoubtedly had more experience than their juniors. When the seniors guided their juniors, the juniors would definitely gain some understanding too. For the next few days, Ma Dong was going to be swamped with work. Since they had enough people to become an official society now, he had to deal with issues such as finding a base of operations, manage a budget, and so on. Although he was the vice president, Wang Zhang simply acted as an all-round jobs worker as he followed Ma Dong everywhere. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 11, Random Weapon. The student union had originally been looking for trouble, yet things had gone unexpectedly smooth for them. They only needed to find some place to use as a base, pay some society deposits, and sign a contract. Like this, they became an official society. Money was no issue for them, but finding a space for the society was a migraine-inducing matter that stressed out President Ma Dong. After a busy day, Wang Zhang entered the OP training grounds. Last year he had been met with death after death as he was unable to match up against any of his opponents. He truly didn't want to experience that again. Things were different now, however. The taste of victory was simple and comparable. After accessing OP, Wang Zhang waited as he was matched up with an opponent. The match he had yesterday couldn't be considered back, but he had been a bit too nervous. He now accepted the outcome without thinking at all and hoped that he would be matched with a top-notch soldier today too. Wang Zhang hadn't noticed that those spectating his match had already exceeded 100 people. This was a fairly large number of spectators for OP, especially considering the fact that they were still within the cannon fodder division. Naturally, most of the spectators had come here to be entertained. Looking forward to see who Brother Expert's opponent is today. We brothers support you. Why are there so many people today? Yesterday our brother King had unexpectedly won a match, causing the forums to explode with debate. Some fool had actually said his opponent yesterday was actually quite skilled and that defeating him it meant our almighty King is actually an expert. Expert? Fuck me, I need to go see. Who has such great eyesight? He definitely isn't blind. Clearly, the battle with future Gong King had sparked a heated debate among the rookies. A comment about the so-called expert would appear from time to time, but would immediately afterwards be flooded with comments that cursed him to death. Map, arena, weapon mode, random. The entire space flared up for a moment, igniting all of the youngsters' passion. Do you see that? That's the air of a tyrant, an expert who can disregard the whole world. They're blinding my gold dog eyes. There is actually someone who dares to use a random weapon. Comrades, we must kneel and worship him at once. Immediately, everyone grew gleeful. For many people, it was the first time they watched Almighty King's battle. They understood the importance of a soldier's weapon. If a long-range soldier was given an axe, then all they could do was cut themselves. If an ability soldier was given a tower shield, then they could use it as a coffin board. Wang Zhang's opponent appeared. Emily Tianjing Heroic Soul Academy. Matches, 0. Cannon Fodder Division. Without a doubt, this was truly Emily. Moreover, she had an asterisk attached to her name, signifying that she was an elite with ultra-high self-confidence. All of the elites or well-known experts from any of the academies would have their names presented in such a way, their real name along with their affiliated academy. This was something the academies required in order to boost their ego and spread the reputation of the academy. This kind of talented person definitely wouldn't become a simple soldier in the future. Their accomplishments in the OP system would be one of the things considered after they graduated and entered the military. Thus, everyone took OP extremely seriously. Although she appeared to be just another newbie, the strength of anyone who was a special recruit definitely couldn't be looked down upon. Information on Emily quickly made its way around. She was from St. Mengel City, 14 years old, and her combat ability was proven to be extraordinary even when she was just in middle school. Although she wasn't tall, she was still an expert at close quarters combat while also God. She also had a flame ability. Some of Brother King's fans were already praying for him, all of them imagining the scene of his miserable defeat. Today they would have a taste of some wonderful barbecue. Emily picked a pair of rune swords. Watching this match was Master Moore, the department head of Tianjin Heroic Soul Academy's rune department. He was a master rune weapon forger and had brought much glory to Tianjin Heroic Soul Academy with his skill. Moreover, he was a member of the Freedom Federation's Rune Association Council. He wanted to observe Emily's battle and gather information on her in order to create a suitable weapon for her. Emily was excited as well. Naturally, this wasn't just because she was a special recruit. Her family's connections had also helped. Master Moore owed her father a favor, which presented itself as a rare opportunity to her. Regardless of who her opponent was, Emily would display her full strength today. Wang Zhang's weapon ended up being a dagger. His luck wasn't too bad. If it had been a bow and arrow, he would have had a headache. When he noticed who his opponent was, Wang Zhang was startled. It was unexpectedly Emily. The little girl who loved to eat ice cream back then had already changed into a valiant soldier now. At this moment, Emily was completely devoid of her usual naughty behavior. It was instead replaced by a completely tranquil expression. She had a sharp gaze as she crossed her two rune swords behind her with an air of aggressiveness. Battle start. Thud 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 thud. Emily nimbly advanced on Wang Zhang, swooping down upon him. With her short stature, she transformed into a cheetah with the circulation of her soul power. That's right. As soon as the battle commenced, Emily began her assault. Whoosh! As she headed directly for Wang Zhang and suddenly leapt into the air, spinning wildly in an arc with a rune sword slicing towards Wang Zhang's neck. All of the spectators forget to breathe at that moment. When they first saw that she was a cute little Ellie, they were a bit dismissive of her. Yet now that they saw her frightening movements and fierce attack, everyone's neck felt cold. They sent a silent prayer out towards Brother King once more. Such a savage Lily was far from good. Despite Emily's sword being so accurate, when it passed by Wang Zhang's neck, her eyes narrowed. She hadn't felt any resistance at all. Whoosh! Emily once again shot forwards with astonishing leaping strength and arrived at Wang Zhang's rear. She slashed at him again with speed of a civet, but Wang Zhang took a step forward and evaded her attack. At the same time, Emily thrust her other rune sword out, stepping up to pursue him. Her arms and legs were in complete unison, allowing her to rapidly close the distance between them. Yet, her opponent's evasions were extremely precise, unexpectedly causing her to miss by a hair's width each time. Bang! Wang Zhang shot out a hand, colliding with Emily, forcing her to leap backwards and retreat. She stood there with her rune sword, watching while Mouthy King slowly turned around. She hadn't heard that this guy was so hard to deal with. Although she hadn't used all of her strength yet, her opponent had been able to see through her attack so effortlessly. This sparked a feeling of excitement within her that she rarely felt. This was the kind of opponent that would allow Master Moore to gain all the information he needed to create the most suitable weapon for her. A petite person would usually avoid a head-on battle, but Emily was the opposite. She preferred to clash with her opponent face to face. The dance of blades made her youthful body incomparably excited. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 12, The Little Drag's Counterattack. Whoosh! Ta-ta-ta-ta. Emily attacked Wang Zhang as she speedily ran circles around him. If he had been an ordinary soldier, he would have already been struck silly as Emily's movements held a type of illusion to them. It made it difficult for one to completely sense when she would stop or the direction she was moving towards. A sly smile crept into being at the corner of Wang Zhang's lips. She had complete control of her attack frequency and center of gravity and could change both at any time. Any brainless fool who attacked her would immediately fall for her trap. This little girl's growth was truly astonishing. In a split second of absent-mindedness, however, Emily struck. At that moment she soared into the air, then quickly and viciously bent down and attacked. To the spectators, it seemed as if her movements completely violated the laws of inertia. In the blink of an eye, her attack struck. The rune sword pierced over. Whoosh! Yet, there was only air. Even Emily couldn't believe it. Her certain sword strike had actually been completely evaded by her opponent. Almost subconsciously, she exploded backward in retreat. Ever since she had awakened, her family had trained her to the point where she was absolutely confident in her strength and skill. In order to train her, her family had even invited students from St. Mengel Heroic Soul Academy to act as her sparring partner. This was also one of the reasons why she wasn't willing to go to that academy. None of the upper-classmen there could even hope to match up to her strength. The unhurried look in her eyes magnified. She had been seen through. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Emily took out her second sword and crossed them. She couldn't lose face in front of Master Moore. Boom. Her two rune swords suddenly ignited as Emily's pretty eyes took on a fiery red color. The blazing flame immediately made the temperature rise up a notch. Those who possessed ability were those who were favored by the gods. Emily's flame wasn't natural, rather, it was soul fire. This soul fire was extremely lethal against soul power and could even interfere with it. The situation reversed in a flash as the two swords combined with her flame ability. With an imposing aura, Emily's weapons were already in a league of their own, above that of Almighty King's dagger. Whoosh! Emily began her assault. This time, she didn't use any special techniques, but instead opted for a head-on attack. When she used this kind of strength, there were few among her peers who could be considered a worthy opponent. Bang! The dagger parried the sword, but in response, Emily's eyes grew resolute, completely embodying the assassin's creed. Her two flaming rune swords flared up for a moment, filling the entire sky with flame. It was almost as if the Grim Reaper's sickle was curling its way around Wang Zhang. This was Emily's strongest attack that no one had ever been able to withstand before. Dancing Fire Lotus. In a flash, the flaming rune swords exploded like a fiery blooming lotus flower. This was a certain death situation. Nobody had ever dreamed that they would be able to see such a powerful attack in the cannon fodder division. Without a doubt, Emily, this cute little Ellie, was from the Assassin clan. Right as everyone was sighing in lament of Almighty King, the entire audience turned to deathly silent in a flash. Everyone had colorful expressions painted all over their faces at that moment. It was as if they had been riding an elevator when all of a sudden, it went out of control and began free-falling. This was because, in the middle of the battlefield, Almighty King had his dagger up against Emily's neck. Emily couldn't stop her hands from shaking. There had never been anyone who could break through Dancing Fire Lotus like this before. Never. Almighty King wins. Emily grit her teeth and held back her tears. Ever since she had awakened her flame ability, no one had thought she was suited for close combat and they had all told her so. But she wanted to fight like this, and so, she convinced herself that she could become a great assassin. She had done her best to let others know this through her accomplishments, yet with the current result, could it be that she had been wrong? The unbeatable Dancing Fire Lotus had been broken through so easily. Wang Zhang suddenly cracked a smile and withdrew his dagger. You chose the wrong weapon. Try out dual daggers next time and maybe the outcome will be different. Emily was still dumbstruck, yet her opponent had already left. Unwittingly, the number of spectators had already grown to over 200 people at some time. Everyone was speechless as they replayed the match in slow motion. The Dancing Fire Lotus was a top-tier assassin burst technique and, moreover, Emily's execution of the technique had been superb and exceptionally quick. Yet, Almighty King had been able to grasp the only flaw: her rune swords had been a bit too long for her. With just a small flaw, he had been able to exploit it completely. During the moment the lotus bloomed, the same moment when it was at its most beautiful, a flaw had appeared as well. Wang Zhang only had to throw his dagger at Emily and disrupt her in order to cause everything to come to a stop. In fact, the formidable power of the dancing fire lotus hadn't even been able to display itself. The spectators were all silent as they watched the replay in disbelief. As they watched the slow-motion replay, they began to realize that it hadn't been simple at all, but damn. How could this be? A thin soul power shield had formed over Almighty King's body and resisted the flaming assault. This kind of control and soul power output, damn, how many people could actually accomplish that? More unbelievable was his judgment and coordination. Throughout the entire Freedom Federation, who would dare to instruct an assassin like so? A few minutes later, all of the spectators exploded into heated discussion. Was this King's counterattack? The OP forums exploded into discussions about Almighty King. If the first time was a small-scale debate, then this time it couldn't be considered a rebuttal, but a counterattack. The little drag's counterattack? Do you believe that the world has such a miracle? Discussing Almighty King's kingly character. There were those who ridiculed him, those with expectations of him and those who were excited by him. Naturally, the level of the battle had given rise to even more debate. Some felt that Emily was highly talented but had no fighting experience, so her style was too rigid. After all, a little Ellie wasn't suited to be an assassin. Yet with so much ability, she insisted on walking the most dangerous path of an assassin. It wasn't until an analysis of the battle came out that the discussion reached a climax. A famous special recruit and second year and the captain of the Mad Beast Battle Squadron from Copperfield Heroic Soul Academy, Explosive Bear Laura, had appeared. She led the Mad Beast Battle Squadron to attain outstanding military achievements during her first year and possess the grassy Explosive Bear Flaming Beast ability. She was a bug-like existence that stood as a representative of the next generation. But above all else, she was a super sexy beauty. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 13, Emily wants to stay the night. Laura watched the whole battle and honestly speaking, she hadn't understood Almighty King's situation until the very end. She'd never seen someone as monstrous as him before. In fact, she felt that it was simply too random. Had the universe exploded? After this battle, however, she was certain. She was certain that Almighty King was terrifying. Countless people had been baffled by the dancing fire lotus before, and even though Emily's weapon had been incompatible with her dancing fire lotus had still been exceptionally formidable. This type of battle skill had extreme killing power even if its fire blades had been imperfectly created. Yet, from start to finish, he had used the minimum amount of soul power to defend himself, as if he was certain his opponent couldn't strike him at all. After analyzing a slow-motion replay of the battle, she marked out the trajectory of his evasive movements and frequent changes. In the face of her analyses, the whole form went silent. It was as though the shadow followed the pace of the body. He'd been bursting with confidence and had dared to move the battle completely to his pace. In other words, Emily was unable to land a single attack on her opponent. All of her moves had been seen through. This was the gap between those at the top and those they looked down upon. Laura turned off her skylink, showing disinterest in the chatter behind her. She swept a glance behind her at Ender and Arnold Toyton. If you two still think you can easily beat him, then the dignity of our Mad Beast Battle Squadron is in danger. This guy is really interesting. No matter how I look at it, his techniques are good but his heart is too soft. He didn't want to lay a hand on his opponent because she was a little girl. This is a huge flaw. After some time, I fear this will cost him his life. Naturally, Laura didn't give voice to these thoughts. At this time, in one of the teachers' buildings for Tianjing Academy's room department. Department head Moore brewed a hot cup of tea for the dispirited Emily. Little girl, why are you so depressed with just a single loss? Don't be sad. You should be happy instead. Uncle Moore, could it be that I'm not suited for the path of an assassin? Moore gave a gentle chuckle. This is something you should ask for yourself. No one but you can decide your life for you. In any case, I agree with what your opponent said. For a personal set of weapons, rune swords are too long for you. Emily was stunned. So it's fine that I lost. You foolish child. Uncle had just barely grasped your situation. A single battle is nowhere near enough to find out what I need. If you learned something from the battle, then that is something worth being happy about. Thank you, Uncle. I understand now. After bowing, Emily quickly ran off and disappeared like a wisp of smoke. Moore couldn't help but shake his head. Youngsters these days are truly too energetic. One moment a gust of wind, the next a shower of rain. He had originally planned on taking Emily's measurements and making her a pair of rune swords, but now it seemed to him that daggers would suit her more. After his battle with Emily concluded, Wang Zong proceeded with his usual routine and began his physical training. The more he fought, the more he felt the importance of his body's strength. Everyone valued soul power, but without a sufficiently strong body to bear its power, it was still a major flaw. Emily has already grown up and unexpectedly grasped such a powerful battle skill. After tempering herself some more, she will surely become a heavenly expert. Ever since he'd awakened, Wang Zong's appetite had grown quite large. After he finished buying his groceries, he returned to his dorm and discovered someone standing by his door. "Emily, why are you here?" Wang Zong curiously asked. Emily was embracing a large bottle of alcohol as she said, "Big brother Wang Zong, come." Today, Emily is very happy. Let's drink some alcohol to celebrate. Wang Zong stared at Emily for a moment before taking the alcohol from her. I'll hold on to this for now. Children shouldn't drink alcohol. This girl is truly rebellious. Naturally, Wang Zong knew within his heart where the problem lay. With such exceptional talent, experiencing a defeat would surely leave her heart in a knot. TCH. You're so old-fashioned. If you won't drink with me, then I'll go into the streets and find someone else to drink with me. Emily wrinkled her little nose as she spoke. She had cut to the chase as she'd grown hungry as well. Heroic soul soldiers used up a lot of energy, and the stronger they were, the more energy they used. Thus, they were basically all big eaters. Wang Zong didn't eat much. Contrary to what one might expect, Emily had eaten the greater amount between the two. She ate and drank while chatting up a storm, explaining to Wang Zong everything that had happened to her today. "Big brother Wang Zong, do you still remember the first time we met 2 years ago? That was when I was the most depressed. It was your words that helped me find confidence in myself until today," said Emily. "Ah, is that so?" Wang Zong said as he rubbed his nose. He didn't remember what he had said at all. Fortunately, Emily didn't mind this. Rather, she began to reminisce. At that time, everyone in her family had been planning her future for her, but she had secretly run off to Tianjin. The day she met Wang Zong was the happiest day of her life. It truly was. Only Wang Zong had supported her decisions, and he had even been the one to suggest the path of an assassin to her. Her innate talent made her good at this, and her stature made her far more nimble than others. Everyone had their own talents after all. I will definitely succeed. Emily suddenly stood up and shouted into the air. Wang Zong jumped in fright. "You little devil, hurry up and sit down. This is a dormitory, you can't make such a racket. Are you afraid others will find out you have a girl in your room?" Emily astutely said. "Do you have a girlfriend?" Wang Zong said in embarrassment, "Children shouldn't be concerned with adult matters." TCH. You're only a bit older than me, what kind of adult are you? You can be relieved though, I will help you look for a girlfriend. In any case, I can't let you date just anybody. Emily laughed. Emily, I agree with what Department Head Moore said. With your build, you'll definitely be able to display your full strength if you switch to dual daggers. You might lose some dominance in your appearance and you might be at a disadvantage in close quarters combat, but an inch is still an inch of danger. With the addition of your nimbleness and close combat instincts, who knows what kind of surprising result there may be. Wang Zong promptly diverted the topic. Emily went silent for a moment before her expression turned into one of astonishment. Why does everyone think that I'm not suited to close quarters combat with my body? Whether you are suitable or not is a feeling of the soul. You have a tendency towards being fierce, and with this tendency of yours, you're fearless and resolute in close quarters combat. In fact, you're like a fish in water. It's in this way that you are suitable for it. But your only problem is finding a suitable battle method. For example, I think your dagger should have curve to it. This way it'll cut through the air even better and let your strikes become even faster, just like a phantom, said Wang Zong. Right after his battle with Emily had concluded, he'd clearly noted the confidence this girl had when she engaged in close quarters combat. If she switched to using a pair of daggers instead and tried her dancing fire lotus once more, the thought gave him goosebumps. Emily sunk into deep thought and involuntarily brandished her hands. It seems, the feeling isn't too bad. I'll go tell Uncle Moore tomorrow. I know you're my caring big brother and you're much more reliable than Ma Dong. Let me hug you as a reward. Wang Zong broke into a cold sweat. Alright then. We've finished eating and have solved your problem. You should go back to your dorm now. I don't want to. I want to stay here. Ma Dong doesn't live here anyways, said Emily. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 14, a correlative study of the behavior of students when studying and the side benefit of attracting the EPs. The male dormitory doesn't allow us to have guests. Hurry up and go back, else I'll call Ma Dong to come and get you, Wang Zong said fiendishly. He had to be serious, otherwise this girl would just keep pushing him. HMPH. You can toss me then. Outside is dark. I'm scared that someone might rob me. What would I do then? I've even drank a lot, Emily said, shivering slightly on the spot. Wang Zong rubbed his nose. Girl, it'll be fine as long as you're not the one robbing others. Anyway, you can just use your soul power to rid yourself of the drunkenness. Big brother Wang Zong, let me tell you a story. A girl's chair in a girl's dormitory broke, so she went to find a boy to help her fix it. And then, that boy really did help her fix it, but then the girl became angry. Emily craftily said. Why? Wang Zong suspiciously asked. Fool, the girl had broken the chair herself. Emily finished and stomped off in a rage, but her face still wore a smile. Classes had officially begun, and all of the students had become like baboons in heat. To them, it was a completely new beginning. Wang Zong followed his usual routine and quickly finished his morning classes. Solitude made one adept at self-reflection. Due to the countless discussions with Sema, Wang Zong had his own understanding of runes in the current battle system. These strange and wonderful ideas of his were really complete nonsense, but some of them actually showed promise. Later in the afternoon, he went to the library. Many students were quietly looking over rune designs as they needed to know how to operate and design them. Wang Zong was also doing the same thing earnestly. Rune designs, especially weapon rune designs, gave him much inspiration. In regards to the weapon designs and his understanding of them, Wang Zong learned of how weapon and soul power worked together to spark such tremendous power due to their designs. Through this, it allowed him to gain an even better understanding of this particular offensive style. In order for him to grow even stronger, he ran through all kinds of possibilities. Students in the commander department didn't prioritize theory. Instead, actual experience was more valued. They would learn all sorts of battle techniques as they believed this was the optimal way to grow stronger. Wang Zong, however, felt that although this method did lead to quick gains, they would end up with a shallow understanding of their techniques. Wang Zong was reading Dr. Madeline's article, The EQ of Hyperdimensional Beings, when he suddenly caught a fragrance. When Wang Zong raised his head to look at who sat across from him, he was met with a refreshing smile. Student Wang Zong, do you mind if I bother you for a moment? Wang Zong was stunned. It was actually Scarlet. Hello, Student Scarlet. Of course it's no problem. I wanted to discuss something with you. Whenever Scarlet appeared, all eyes would be on her. Wang Zong nodded. There wasn't much he could do to help this influential person anyway. Wang Zong, I read the essays you wrote earlier and found them very insightful, especially the connection between the macro-ego and micro-ego. Scarlet praised Wang Zong, finding it unbelievable that this person's achievements and theory surpassed even her own. Although she had always found combat difficult for her, she had always considered herself the best in theory until she entered this heroic soul academy and faced her first defeat. After reading his published papers and feeling absolutely crushed, Scarlet had spent her whole vacation trying to understand Wang Zong. She had been flabbergasted by how audacious his theories were. Perhaps others would consider his theories nonsense, but Scarlet gained much insight from them. "I just ponder things as I please," Wang Zong said. "You believe that the power of runes is a type of living, magnetic force. This came from your own understanding, right?" Scarlet inquired. The power of runes was normally regarded as a magnetic field force that originated from the Dark Moon's influence. Wang Zong had never expected someone to find his thoughts interesting. After all, it was only due to Simba's influence that his mind had been free of the constraints of conventional thinking so that he was able to come up with a myriad of strange and wonderful ideas. Furthermore, Simba had presented him with many baffling viewpoints. For example, the theory on demons from the hyperdimension, how humanity had only dug up the lowest levels of their inner power, how fate controlled everything, and so on. Yet, once he entered the academy, everyone had considered his ideas to be crazy. In fact, even Ma Dong had advised him to stop thinking about such nonsense all day long, otherwise he would go crazy. This was the first time someone actually wanted to discuss his ideas with him. This wasn't a search for novelty either, it was genuine interest. Today, Scarlet found Wang Zong for nothing more than her own interests. When she came to borrow a book from the library, she chanced upon Wang Zong and recalled the various papers he had written before. As such, she decided to go chat with him. Wang Zong's knowledge base had, however, exceeded her expectations by far. The two of them became like a couple of chatterboxes that couldn't be stopped. "Ah, you have such a deep understanding of the devil race as well. I also think that the Federation is being too conservative. A large reason why the Empire is so powerful is due to their relationships and intermarriage with the different races. This allowed them to give birth to even stronger bloodlines. With the powerful bodies and heroic souls of other tribes, their individual abilities are already far or near those of the Federations." Scarlet said this with sorrow. She had learned many things on her own, so her viewpoint was much higher than other students. Inside wasn't as easy to gain his strength, yet this was the first time she had encountered something like this. This unassuming guy in front of her actually had a viewpoint even broader than her. Wang Zong let out a humble chuckle. To him, the games between the Empire and the Federation were matters for adults to tend to. He had never published his ideas with regards to this topic. For example, he thought that the protracted negotiations between the Empire and Federation regarding the introduction of the OP system had involved too much inside interests and didn't take into account the spirit of loyalty of the students. The devil race can be considered as the representatives of the strange races and of relations with the rich and powerful Kaiser Empire. The constitution of shadow devils produces powerful shadow warriors. After watching videos of their battles, I truly couldn't help but gasp in amazement. That's right, it would be hard to win against them in a one-on-one duel, especially if a long-ranged soldier would have faced them. It would simply turn into a massacre. Actually, there's still a way to win. As long as the long-ranged soldier can shoot a double-stacked array, then even a shadow devil wouldn't be able to dodge it. Scarlet was shocked. She couldn't help but grin. There were very few people who could actually pull it off. Pen pen pang. As the two of them were happily chatting away, they suddenly heard knocking at the door. Emily and Ma Dong stood in the doorway. Emily wore a face full of hostility while Ma Dong gave him a sly wink. "I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance." Chapter 15, The Question of Size. President Scarlet, you don't need to waste any more effort. Big Brother Wang Zong is never leaving the Prodigy Society. Emily exclaimed without hesitation. Scarlet smiled and gave Wang Zong a glance. "I definitely won't give up easily, cute little junior sister." Emily wrinkled her nose and said, "HMPH, who's little?" Ma Dong narrowed his eyes and covertly scanned the two women's chests. TSK, it is a little small. Dong. Emily stomped on Ma Dong's insp, causing his face to instantly turn black. Like a bomb going off, just before an animalistic howl was about to fill the entirety of the library, Scarlet's right hand pointed at Ma Dong, throwing a silencing technique that directly swallowed Ma Dong in one gulp. The silencing technique was a high-on-soul power ability specifically designed to counter ability users as it could interfere with their abilities. Yet, it was now being used just to shut someone up. Ma Dong could only feel his head buzzing, as though his body was about to fly away. Emily and Scarlett glanced at one another. They seemed to have found something in common. At that moment, he glanced at Wang Zong with tears in his eyes. Just who had he provoked? Wang Zong, it was a pleasure talking with you today. I presume that we both benefited mutually. I hope that in the future we will have more opportunities to talk, Scarlett said with a beautiful, soul-stirring smile. Wang Zong nodded his head and said, I also benefited a lot. The second Scarlett walked away, Ma Dongdong immediately lunged over and exclaimed, Brother, you won big. Tell me, when did you get so close to Scarlett? Have you two done it already? Wang Zong quickly covered Ma Dong's dirty mouth. This guy simply didn't fear the world turning into chaos. If word of this spreads, then regardless of whether it was true or not, every day would bring hundreds of students out, searching for his blood. You're overthinking it. She is only interested in my academic work. Say, as someone who treats the library like a graveyard, what are you doing here? Wang Zong asked. That was right. Ma Dongdong considered this place a burial ground, so he wasn't willing to waste any of his precious time here. Have you forgotten? You have a makeup class today. Ma Dong replied. Wang Zong was surprised for a moment before cursing. Damn it, to think I actually forgot about it. The three of them frantically rushed to the examination room. Having chosen the role of a long-ranged combatant for the examination, Wang Zong barely scraped a pass. He definitely had to pass this makeup examination, else his days as a second year will definitely be hard to live through. Ever since the awakening of his soul powers, Wang Zong had been immersed in understanding his newfound abilities, causing him to even forget about this important event. The examination was still in progress when they arrived. To be honest, this was quite a shameful scene as all of the students present were those retained from the previous semester. Ma Dong patted Wang Zong's shoulder encouragingly and said, Brother, have faith in yourself, you've practiced the entire holiday so there will definitely be some results. Big brother Wang Zong is the best. Don't be nervous. Emily shouted out. Wang Zong smiled slightly. He and nervousness had nothing to do with each other. Taking out his skyline, he scanned through the details of his makeup exam. The system had chosen a bow as his long-ranged weapon for the examination. In the examination hall, the exam teacher was impatiently watching the clock. If it wasn't because he knew there was still one more student, he would have long left. Hurry up, Wang Zong, you're the last one. There are 5 groups, and each group of 10 arrows. As long as your average is 60 points, you pass, the examination teacher explained. Proceed over there to choose your weapon. The 2 important criteria for long-ranged battle ability was accuracy and damage. As a long-ranged combatant, accuracy was first, while having adequate soul power damage was second. Every shot had to be accurate, but also filled with adequate soul power, otherwise, there was no lethality. Wang Zong chose the room bow. Unlike other bows that were handcrafted by department head Moore, this one was mass-produced, thus there was bound to be some loss in soul power conversion. On the second floor of the exam venue stood 2 people, one old and one young, engaging in merry banter. The vigorous old man was the president of Tianjin Heroic Soul Academy and the representative of the Freedom Federation, Green Steve. At his side stood a female in the Freedom Federation Army uniform. With a crown of short hair and eyes sparkling with intelligence, she exuded an aura reminiscent of a hero, standing tall and valiant. On her forehead was an eye-catching scar. Normally, it would ruin a lady's beautiful appearance, but on her it exemplified her imposing aura. This is such a coincidental timing. Grace, please show some support for your junior brothers and sisters, Green said. Grace was one of the most exemplary students that had graduated from Tianjin Academy in recent years. Teacher Green, I've heard that Tianjin Academy's ranking has dropped quite a bit. This is so unlike you, Grace slyly laughed. You brat, the first thing you do after coming back is antagonize your teacher, is that the right behavior? Green started to feel a slight headache. After all these years, this troublemaker still hadn't changed a single bit. This is my alma mater and I have strong feelings for it. I returned in the hopes of uncovering a few potential geniuses this time. The standard for the current exam is not low, however, and I feel that choosing from the first and second years would be better, with first years being best, Grace said. Green nodded his head and said, this is a God-sent opportunity for Tianjin Academy. I'll leave the selection entirely up to you. What are your plans? I believe that within the school, there is bound to be students with potential. Teacher, what do you think about holding a competition using my name? Grace asked. Being a Heroic Soul Academy, room technology could only serve to as a decoration in comparison to combat ability. I was waiting for you to say that. Your influence on the younger generation surpasses mine by far, haha. Suddenly, both Green and Grace glanced over towards the outside of the observation deck. At the shooting range below, having chosen his bow, Wang Zhang gathered up his soul powers. The teacher irritatingly said, "You done preparing yet? Hurry up!" He had little patience for those second and third years who still needed to take a makeup class. Ignoring the complaints of the teacher, Wang Zhang wholeheartedly focused on the weapon in his hands. The target in front of him grew larger and larger. Whoosh! Bang! Bullseye! The makeup teacher nodded his head slightly, but then saw that the damage meter that only displayed 40. Is he trying to tickle it? Although the distance is a bit far, the damage is too low. Generally, with long-distance attacks, the further the distance the greater the rate damage dissipated, with 20 meters enough to dissipate half of the power. Although Wang Zhang had miraculously caused only a bit of power to dissipate, the base power was still too little. Come on, use some strength. Have you not eaten yet? What can this tiny soul power do? The makeup teacher cursed. Being accurate had no use. Upstairs, Grace Riley smiled and said, "What an interesting kid. He exudes the aura of a veteran with bow techniques, but that soul power is too pathetic." Dean Green suddenly hopelessly said, "That one is a mistake we made last year." He was the one who wrote the theory on tactics of control and was specially invited to join the commander department. Now, however, he has become a problem. Grace gulped and stared at him. Indeed, having a student from the commander department take makeup lessons was quite a disgrace. If he is unable to pass today's makeup exam, I will transfer him to the room department. Leaving him in the commander department would not be fruitful for his studies, Green said. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it. Just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 16, The Heavy Sacha from the North. Ignoring the exam teacher's ridicule, Wang Zhang's gaze sharpened as he stared quietly at the target. Kangjin. In an instant, the remaining 9 arrows explosively shot out together and toward the target 20 meters away. Huang Lunlin with an explosive boom, the unprepared teacher was lifted off the ground and fell back. His face was full of shock. Only after some time did he slowly turn his head, mouth gaping open widely. All that was left of the target board was a pile of scrap on the floor. Sucking back his saliva, the teacher cursed. Damn it, wasn't the target board capable of handling Grasso-powered attacks? That's fucking 20 meters away. Is this person here for makeup classes? Or is he here to tease me? Suspicious. The teacher started examining Wang Zhang from head to toe. According to the Sky Lankan student ID, it didn't look like a replacement. I think this target board has been overused and is in need for a replacement. However, your performance today was not bad. Alright, you've passed today's makeup test, the teacher said. Grace's eyes sparkled intensely. 9 consecutive arrows in a span of 1.5 seconds with nearly identical flight pathways. What's more, it was extremely accurate, with strong fundamentals. Green was quite surprised as he nodded his head. How interesting. That isn't an easy feat to accomplish. The main issue of low soul power, however, is still present. Are you planning on wasting your time on him? What Dean Green said was indeed true. With so many students, there was bound to be talents present. The commander department, however, existed for a specific purpose, to train the people who could cast their heroic souls. If one could not cast their heroic soul, then it would forever amount to nothing. Grace cast a pair of confident eyes on the grounds below. A radiant smile blossomed as she said, "Teacher, every single person should have a dream. What if the dream comes true?" With the end of the makeup class, Wang Zhang didn't linger around and instead went to join Ma Dong and Emily for dinner before heading off alone for some personal training. Ever since he came to the Heroic Soul Academy, Wang Zhang had never once skipped training his fundamentals. In the training room, one arrow after the other continuously shot out from Wang Zhang's bow. The feeling of this continuous flow made every inch of Wang Zhang's body feel rejuvenated. Only this could be called a fight. This was the life he wanted. After training, Wang Zhang re-entered the OP system to search for his opponent for today. Since the lesson curriculum wasn't packed at the moment, he may as well fight a match. After his ID started flashing, the formerly quiet cannon fodder division grew noisy as people began discussing the double victory. Furthermore, one had been against a successor of the Assassin clan. The people who came from clans possessed bloodlines of ignited heroic souls and were leagues above the average combatant. Behind them stood the mighty power of their ancestors. In the end, was Almighty King just a cactus blooming in the night once, or had he gained some sort of enlightenment? The moment Wang Zhang's opponent appeared, the audience numbers quickly grew to over 300, showing just how many had set reminders on their skylinks. Although there were a few strong combatants that had awe-inspiring fights, they were too far in between for the common man. Moreover, Almighty King had managed to stir something deep within their hearts. A multitude of voices were heard as the audience discussed the fight, but there was a subtle change in the old tone. It looks like Brother King managed to break through. With his recent improvement in combat prowess, I feel that he can walk the path of an assassin. If you can walk the path of an assassin with only 2 wins, then you're thinking too much. This fellow just had an accidental win. He's a rookie. While the other is a clan member of the Assassin clan, it's known that even our clan members who are against are going down the path of an assassin. With such a small and petite body that's unsuitable for assassination and the unfortunate luck that her trademark dancing fire lotus was broken this means that she isn't suited for the way of the assassin. I bet that today, Almighty King will end up back at square one. Yeah, that's right, just 2 easily wins and he thinks he could forget the past. What kind of bullshit is Brother King thinking? Today, this boss came to watch him get trashed. The crowd gradually formed 2 factions and the majority still didn't believe that Almighty King, a joke in their eyes, would be able to emerge like a butterfly from a cocoon. Those who were voting for him only did so due to the recent 2 wins. At this moment, Laura was silently observing the broadcast through her skylink instead of entering the OP system. Her fame as the explosive bear goddess brought her unnecessary trouble. Ender and Arnold Torton were currently training the newest batch of squad members. Although Almighty King's recent performance was quite impressive in both tactics and perception, as veterans with over 100 battles under their belt, it didn't interest them much. Their battle squadron, Mad Beast Battle Squadron, recently had 2 of their seniors with strong combat ability graduate. As such, they had to start screening the new members and choose promising talents to be their replacement. Screening wasn't Laura's job. She poured herself a cup of coffee as she watched the broadcast projection. After all the contradictions that Almighty King displayed during his previous fights, she felt that she had to watch this fight. After a short while, Wang Zhang's opponent appeared. 1 Oleg Stedwell Heroic Soul Academy. 1 battle, 1 victory. Stedwell was the #1 city in the north of the new continent, where the climate was cold. Stedwell Heroic Soul Academy possesses fierce and tenacious heavy armored soldiers with strong wills in plentiful numbers. The key point, however, was this person's surname. Oleg was the surname of a formidable clan of the human race that could be traced back to the 100 years span the humans had gone through. They had the ability to transmit the power of the heroic soul through their bloodline, just like the Assassin clan in St. Mengel. When anyone spoke of heavy armor soldiers, the Oleg clan would definitely be mentioned. This 2-meter-tall, fierce-looking warrior was indeed a new generation member of the Oleg clan. Oh my god, this bastard is built like a wild beast. Look at his chest. It's as thick as the girth of my body. Stedwell City is surrounded by the bitter cold. No doubt, Brother King is gonna suffer this time. The first 2 wins by Almighty King involved some luck, coupled with a few strategies and the element of surprise. With a heavy soldier as his opponent, however, a single mistake could result in being physically crushed with his bones shattering. Laura Riley smiled. As potential opponents, every single bit of information about the various academies and their new students were known to her. With regards to this Oleg, although he didn't have much of a combat record in the OP system, he still would have received all kinds of combat training from a young age. This was the same with almost every single successor of a martial clan. The moment he ignited his soul fire, everything he achieved would only require half the effort. This was why martial clans were able to take over the world. Although the perception and strategies employed by Almighty King wasn't bad, facing such a monster that had extra strong defense with his attacks would be almost useless. Facing such odds, even the staunchest supporters of Almighty King had given up hope. Unfortunately, the bets had already been placed, so there was no other option but to watch and pray. As usual, Wang Zhang chose a random weapon. The stronger the opponent, the better the gains in soul power. This guy is too arrogant. Instead of choosing a long-ranged weapon that would give a sliver of victory, he chose a random weapon. Stop joking, that's only if he knows how to use a long-ranged weapon. There is no easy way to counter someone from the Oleg clan. They have confidence in facing any occupation. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 17, Tyrannical Heavy Dam. I'm talking about his attitude problem. Some of the watchers had come for fun while others had already jumped on the bandwagon and started ridiculing. When the random weapon selection finished, the entire crowd was blown away. The spectators that numbered over 300 felt like they'd been cheated. This simply makes it hard to watch. He actually managed to get no weapons. Even God can't bear to keep watching. He's in way over his head. I feel like Brother King's ass will explode. I can already imagine the scene where Brother King gets pummeled and crushed. When the results of random weapon selection was revealed, Juan wrinkled his brows, puzzled. Weapons were akin to a lifeline. They represented the path of combat one strove toward. In the Oleg clan's mindset, there were only two kinds of people who were omnipotent in all weaponry, either a god or a dead man. It was also possible that the opponent had some sort of trump card. Juan also never chose a weapon. Before a member of the Oleg clan ignites their heroic soul, and were allowed to use any weapon, this was a form of combat training, as only with strong self-confidence can he cast the strongest heroic soul. Yet, no one would dare to underestimate the combat strength of the Oleg clan, as the clan was most notable for their strong and resilient bodies. Even the nimblest of assassins would face a horrible death if they tried to engage the Oleg clan in close combat. Both sides entered the arena. It seemed that neither side could take advantage of the terrain, as the chosen arena was just a flat plain. Some people, who were exceptionally obsessive, had a moment where they felt pumped. Instead of choosing an arena map with varying terrain like a forest, where one could flank if a frontal assault failed, this guy chose to fight head-on. This was tantamount to suicide. The combatants on both sides prepared to battle. Juan stared at his opponent's eyes, seeing a lack of fear within. Instead, he received an eager stare filled with confidence and anticipation. Anticipation. Juan crossed his hands at his chest, performing the Northern Warrior salute. He was showing respect to his opponent. Whispers could be heard throughout the crowd. Was he worth it? Although it was etiquette, usually this salute was reserved for the worthiest of opponents. As an absolute bookworm who loved to read up on the customs and traditions of various cities, Wang Zhang understood the meaning behind the salute. Wang Zhang crossed his hands and returned the salute with a slight twist. His thumbs were pointed toward one another, signaling his desire for an all-out, honorable fight. Upon seeing the salute, Juan was shocked. A fearsome glint emanated from his eyes. This was interesting. Although he felt Wang Zhang wasn't strong, he appreciated that fearlessness. After that salute, proper respect had to be given. Dong! Right when the fight began, Juan rushed forward. Although it was stereotypical for a person of such stature to use brute force, this rush emitted a crushing pressure, very different from a mindless brute. Facing this charge, Wang Zhang stood his ground. An attack was only lethal if it struck its target. Wang Zhang dodged Juan's explosive punch. Although a heavy soldier had powerful explosive strength, their agility was lacking in comparison to other classes. As he dodged the oncoming punch, Wang Zhang countered with a blow at a person's weak spot, the liver. The physical defense of the liver was lower. Upon impact, Wang Zhang felt an incredible resistance on his fist. Immediately, another fist was thrown at his head. If this attack hit, then his neck would definitely snap. He immediately pulled back, exploding backwards. Instead of chasing after him, Juan stopped. He stared suspiciously at Wang Zhang and thought that this opponent of his was too weak. With a soul power of around 50, his attack would barely count as an itch. Even if he didn't try to defend, he could effortlessly block hundreds of those attacks. Did I make a mistake? Whoosh whoosh. 2 depressions appeared on Wang Zong's head and body. Although he dodged the 2 attacks, the pressure from each fist was sufficient enough to cause bodily harm. The crowd went into an uproar. Although the Old clan was known for their first-class heavy techniques, this guy was so ferocious and overbearing. Defense was the core of a heavy soldier. If they could exert control over their attacks as well, then they'd become the most reliable fighter in the arena. Juan solemnly said, "If this is your standard, then you do not deserve my respect." Northerners tended to be direct, especially those from Stog. They couldn't tolerate show-offs. Wang Zong chuckled slightly and stretched his body. Such an abnormal defense was akin to fighting a beast. This would be interesting. Whoosh. Wang Zong moved forward with a frontal assault. Juan wrinkled his brow. Is this guy digging his own grave? Against his assault, Juan didn't take any action. No matter how fast or agile the opponent was, an opportunity would present itself when the attack reached him. Countering before that would give the opponent a window to attack. The goal of striking first was to force the opponent to take action. Ordinarily, one would subconsciously try to defend when faced with an assault. Only a skilled warrior who received training would be able to patiently wait for an opportune moment. Everyone in the crowd felt a sense of helplessness. The opponents were in entirely different realms. Right now, Juan was undoubtedly one of the most influential people. This fight meant little to him. Wang Zong, as the challenger, did not have the option of retreating, and thus could only initiate the fight. Upon seeing Wang Zong move, Juan exploded with a roar, sending a fist forward. With his level of defense, he could completely ignore Wang Zong's attacks and end his life. Wang Zong's attack was actually a feint used to draw out Juan's attack. Twisting his body sideways, he prepared to unleash another strike at his weak spot. Facing an opponent with a strong body and high soul power, the only way to hurt him was to strike at a weak point like the liver or the back of his head. At this moment, Wang Zong felt impending danger. Roar bang. A wild collision. Whoosh. Wang Zong flew back like a crushed ragdoll. Everyone stared in horror. Damn, was this a heavy? There was basically no room given to survive. It was unexpected that one would also use a feint tactic like Wang Zong did earlier. While his opponent was still reacting, Juan suddenly charged forward with a sudden burst of power and collided with Wang Zong. The strength of the collision was estimated to be around 150 grassos of power. There was no doubt that all the bones in Almighty King had been shattered from that move. Juan stood still, pondering over the fight. Had it been a minute yet? Just when everyone felt the fight was over, Wang Zong crawled up. He was a bit shocked. The Ola clan's battle abilities truly aren't just empty boasts. Unscathed. Discussions about what had just happened began to circulate the crowd. No one could have survived such a violent collision, but from the looks of it, Almighty King looked just fine and was undamaged. Juan also noticed this. When the collision occurred, it seemed fatal, but Wang Zong managed to use an opposing force to mitigate the damage. The reaction speed and skill required to escape such a situation was remarkable. This was akin to the combat sense of a first-rate assassin. Juan realized that he couldn't be complacent any longer. It was fortunate that his opponent wasn't using any weapon. If he faced an assassin of such caliber, along with that agility and fearlessness, then the entire close combat fight would have become his worst nightmare. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 18, Unbelievable. One spread out his arms and hunched forward slightly. He resembled a ferocious bear that was waiting to charge at his prey. Facing an opponent with such agility, one mustn't focus on landing a killing blow. Instead, one must concentrate on containment and capture. Once captured, their agility becomes moot. Now was the time to showcase the Oleg clan's famous prey capturing techniques. Only by using such techniques would one become the champion. Using mere brute force would lead to failure. Wang Zong didn't fear Juan's stance and charged forward rapidly. Against this kind of heavy soldier which had a strength equivalent to 10 men, overly complicated moves wouldn't make the cut. The only way is to break his defensive posture. Juan allowed Wang Zhang's attacks to hit, so long as none were aimed at his vital points. On the other hand, every one of Juan's attacks had an aura of death behind it. If he were caught by Juan, Wang Zhang would immediately be crushed. In a short span of 2 minutes, the two unleashed dozens of moves against one another. Wang Zhang landed at least 7 or 8 strikes on Juan, but didn't do much due to his weak attack power. Juan made sure to tightly guard his vital spots. He didn't believe that a fighter like Wang Zhang would lack a hidden move. Wang Zhang's soul power wasn't high, and he wouldn't give him the chance to strike his vitals. With this, nothing could penetrate his defense. Yet, this opponent was very slippery and agile. There was no chance for him to capture the other, never mind landing a hit. This almighty king was definitely a combat veteran. He constantly harassed the other without taking any unnecessary risks. It was as if he was waiting for an easy way to strike. Seeing those eyes brimming with self-confidence, Juan didn't dare to underestimate his foe. Such confidence indicated that there was a hidden killing move that could strike when the opportunity presented itself. Yet, the man seemed to have forgotten that he wasn't the only one with a killing move. Another strike landed on Juan's chest, but it was no different from striking a metal sheet. The collision caused Wang Zhang to rebound into the air. Facing such a monster while in mid-air was suicide, and he had to quickly return to the ground. At this moment, Juan struck. As he blocked Wang Zhang's strike, Juan's fist had already been thrust forward. It rumbled towards Wang Zhang like an exploding cannon shell. Such a strike would definitely cause Wang Zhang's head to explode like a watermelon. But, this distance wasn't enough. A few millimeters away, Juan's palms suddenly slapped together. Soul power instantly exploded outward from the clap. Wing. Oleg shockwave slap. Juan felt extremely confident. That shockwave clap was capable of knocking out an unprepared opponent for at least a second. This was more than enough time to end his opponent's life. Juan's right hand was like Thor's hammer as it rumbled towards Wang Zhang's head. Silence filled the audience seats as everyone was wholly absorbed by the match. The combat prowess of one from the Oleg clan was on a level Brother King couldn't match. He was about to get beat up as usual. Wing. Whoosh. Juan's fist stopped abruptly, a few millimeters away from the top of Almighty King's head. Why did he stop? Just a bit further and the match would have ended. Juan stood there motionlessly, his expression petrified while his eyes wide open as though they were about to pop open. Victory for Almighty King. The previously silent crowd burst into a cacophony of voices in a matter of seconds. This was an unexpected win within the cannon fodder division. Oh God, are you kidding me? Is the OP system having problems? Brother King, damn it, how did you manage to make the OP system your fairy godmother? It's just not possible. Juan is able to defend against at least 150 Grassos. There wasn't any soul power detected that was high enough to break his defense. There must have been a problem. Most of the average fighters within the cannon fodder division didn't possess high intelligence. When faced with such a mind-blowing event, even if they knew a problem in the OP system was highly unlikely as the OP provided entrance and use of the fifth dimension which made it impossible to disturb, they couldn't find any other explanation for this. Hong. Juan Oleg's body fell back to the alarmed shout of the crowd. The cacophony turned into harsh silence that filled the air. What could be seen on Juan's left chest was a massive, soul-chilling depression. Such an attack on the heart would cause it to easily rupture. Instant death. Wang Zhang slowly stood up. Taking a deep breath, he left the OP system. I'll be damned, I must be dreaming, right? That looks exactly like a blow a sledgehammer would cause. It should have been some kind of ability with explosive aspects. An ability like that would have at least caused some soul power fluctuations. Did you see any of that? Where'd he go? You pig, hurry up and move to the forums and wait for a great god's enlightenment. Originally, since these fights were of the cannon fodder division, they weren't given much attention. Compared to famous and popular matches, Almighty King's match could barely be considered entertainment. Now, however, the chatter within the forums reached an unprecedented level. some people had already uploaded slow-motion clips of the killing moment. Everyone was extremely curious as to what had actually happened during that critical moment. What ability did Almighty King use to break through the defense of someone as strong as one within a split second, such that he wasn't able to even shout? It couldn't have been an explosion caused by a shockwave upon contact, right? The trademark of abilities lay in their uniqueness, which was incredibly hard to predict and defend against. Yet, all abilities were traceable and, once unearthed, would have its effectiveness reduced due to it being more predictable. However, when the slow motion played through, everyone noticed that during the point of one's shockwave attack, Wang Zhang's left hand was blocking one's view and was followed by his right fist when one unleashed the attack on Wang Zhang's head. What the hell, wasn't this just an ordinary punch? Every single student combatant would learn the fundamentals of how to throw a punch, swing a sword, and utilize soul power. If a punch that normal could take down a member of the Oleg clan, then they really should change their name to the Thin-Skinned clan. Captain, why did you summon the two of us? The current batch of new members are an unruly bunch and we're in the process of disciplining them. Arnold Toitman exclaimed. New members tended to be a bit arrogant, and disciplining them was an interest of Arnold Toitman's. He had been treated the same by the squad captain when he was a newbie. Laura beamed a devilish smile and said, Almighty King just fought another match. I felt you two should really take a look at it, especially you, Endler. Oh, is that so? I thought that coward wouldn't dare to show his face again. Who was his opponent this time? Arnold Toitman said, laughing. Disciplining newbies made him feel extremely satisfied. Oleg Swan. The Endler clan and Oleg clan were widely known as the Federation's North and South Iron Gates. The Oleg clan were distinctly known for their ferocious body strength, while the Endler clan was more all-rounded and comprehensive. Both possessed their own specialized traits, but there was no doubt which clan was the best heavy soldier clan. Oh, so what's the result? Facing an Oleg whose body is extremely strong and resilient and is akin to a bear, only a sharpshooter such as myself can make the cut, said Arnold Toitman with a smile. One strike, instant death. Laura laughed, her eyes revealing a faint glimmer as her heart felt interest. The strong always lusted for a worthy fight. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 19, Match King of Debate. Haha, Bobs, you're kidding, right? How could the bear's defense be so fragile? Laura stopped speaking, letting both Endler and Arnold watch the fight. The two combatants were similar. They both possessed normal combat prowess, but excelled in one particular area. They also only used fundamental fights and counters. Although Almighty King's soul power was quite weak, his control over his soul power was precise, meaning he could leverage his strengths against his opponent's weak points. Bluntly speaking, it all came down to opportunities. Even the most flexible assassin had to risk their life to land a killing blow. When he observed Wan's shockwave clap, Toitman was also interested, since it resembled that deflection technique. It was the final punch, however, that had Toitman staring at the monitor in disbelief. What the hell was this? Laura smiled slightly in Endler's direction. Laura herself had pondered over the punch for quite a long time, but still could not determine the presence of a hidden ability. However, she felt that Endler, being a member of the Heavy Clan, would be able to decipher this killing move to properly utilize an ability. It must be practiced constantly over a period of time, yet Almighty King had not done so. Slow down the frame rate. Endler suddenly said. However, there was a limit to how much a playback could be slowed, thus it ended up as a blurry image. Still, Endler's face turned incredibly grim as he sucked in a deep breath. It might be. Oscillating fist. Oscillating fist, what's that? Said Arnold with a smile. Wait. What? Oscillating fist. Laura shuddered. Are you telling me that that explosive and destructive killing blow relied on oscillating soul power to high frequency? Endler nodded, then shook his head. Since I didn't watch personally, I'm not wholly certain, but from the shape of the injury, it was most likely caused by the first-rate, high-frequency battle technique, oscillating fist. Isn't it unlikely? The skill itself is a double-edged blade. Without a powerful body and excellent control over soul power, the move cannot be executed. The punch's soul power was roughly 200 grafsos, practically impossible for one to block. If I could experience it for myself, then I could be certain. Ender's eyes sparkled in anticipation. Arnold looked at the terrifying depression in one's chest and shuddered. You're all perverts, masochists. All high-level battle techniques required a strong body and precise control over one's soul power. Furthermore, to execute the technique, one needs a considerable amount of soul power as well as the ability to compress it quickly, which results in extreme pressure placed on the body and soul. If complications were to occur, then one would self-destruct, while the opponent is unharmed. If executed properly, however, synergy occurs and disseminated force greater than the total input forms. At the time when the forums were in chaos, Explosive Bear Goddess Laura uploaded an analysis that included a description of the oscillating fist. This immediately started a new round of discussion, since high-level battle techniques were rarely seen even in the elite division, let alone the cannon fodder division. Brother Mouthy, just how fucking awesome are you? With 3 expert wins, a bottom scrubber had suddenly transformed into a powerhouse. Looks like my goddess Laura is a fan of Brother King. Scram. As if you have any relation with my goddess. Incidentally, as the chaotic discussion continued, another goddess plugged her views. It was Laura's rival from the new continent's southern city, Flame City, Fire Cannon Charmy. Undoubtedly, the two were at the forefront of their generation, with both ranked amongst the best in terms of soul power. Laura's specialty was her Sneshla and Soul Beast, Fiery Explosion Bear, while Charmy's specialty was her unique ability, Flame Burst, which required perfect control over her soul power. Both of them were known as the best fire ability users of the new generation. Normally, the cannon fodder division held no interest to them, yet suddenly, Laura began to post about a newbie in the cannon fodder division, causing Charmy to see this as an opportunity to distinguish herself. Being rivals, and furthermore, captains of their respective battle squadrons, they both possessed a critical eye for judging a person's potential. This led them to compete in more than just combat skills. After Laura had plugged her post that thoroughly analyzed the match, Charmy immediately made a follow-up post, expressing her view that All-Mouthy King was the alias of an elite division combatant, making Laura's review of his strong and weak points silly. Charmy was delighted that she could use this opportunity to finally gain an upper hand over Laura. During the match, the amount of soul power All-Mouthy King used was low, yet his control over it was exquisite. This clearly indicated that All-Mouthy King was just an alias, and that it was extremely silly that Laura did a detailed analysis of him. "Be big sis, this?" The hesitant voice came from Mario, a flaming squadron member who couldn't help but say something. "Big your head. If you have anything to say, then say it out now," Charmy shouted. With her explosive temper, she couldn't deal with hesitation. "Heh, big sis, that All-Mouthy King isn't a nickname. It's a username that's already been used for over a year now and has a victory rate of 99 losses. Those 3 previous matches were his only wins," Mario said cautiously. Charmy stared in shock. As a minute passed, the temperature of the room began to slowly rise. "You slowpoke, why didn't you say so earlier?" "Go die." A member that was standing outside said, "Vice Captain Mario is so pitiful. Just what is the secret to his flame resistance? Our squad captain is perfect in every way, except for that explosive temper. It's the same with Captain's chest, heh. Shush. This is her taboo, be careful or you'll be roasted alive." Mario, who had just been blown away by those flames, gave off a charred smell as he thought, "I really should consider just shaving my head bald." Just as Charmy had anxiously expected, the forums once again exploded into discussions. Everyone knew that both Charmy and Laura were competing to be the #1 fire ability user. Charmy, indeed, was talented. Even before casting our heroic soul, she had an extremely high level of soul power. With her abundant soul her soul power output could be considered limitless. Laura, on the other hand, not only was she a fire ability user, but she was also a spirit user who possessed a spirit soul beast. This made Laura stand out more, which was something the haughty Charmy couldn't stand. Yet, only one phrase was stuck to the explosive goddess, which was big chest, no brains, kek. Although saying no brains was a bit much, it didn't help that her impulsive actions didn't have much thought behind them. Seeing Charmy's post, Laura broke out into laughter. "Ha! She really is a dairy cow." Henry and Arnold exchanged glances, both understanding the other's feelings. Those two sacks were definitely lethal weapons. Ah? Girls were very sensitive. Laura was no exception as she asked, what are the two of you thinking about? Nothing, Bobs, what you said is correct. That fellow is definitely a dairy cow with big breasts and no brains. Amber replied hurriedly, his reaction faster than Arnold's. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it, just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. Chapter 20, The Unfathomable Heart of a Girl Big Chest with No Brains. Schoolmate Antler, how can you be so sexist toward women? As your squadron leader, I have to discipline you. Bang. Whoosh. Antler flew back and a loud crash emanated from outside. Seeing Laura's glare now fixated on him, Arnold hurriedly beckoned with his hands and put on a shining, innocent face as he said, Leader, what you said is absolutely right. Let me help you kick that sexist scum. He is the enemy of common men. Bang. Whiz. Ah. Laura dusted her hands and said, ah, how refreshing. Shami sure is bored. Ever since last year, she's been bringing up troubles for herself. Out of all the numerous experts from the Empire and other various special races, she just had to choose me. Laura couldn't bear to watch any longer as all the discussions had turned into arguments, nitpicking both of them. Shami also felt extremely depressed. This bastard, to think that you were actually that almighty king. Don't let me see you, else I'll be sure to roast and kill you over and over again. She had initially only taken a glance and presumed it was the Almighty King that was being used as a nickname due to his behavior and combat techniques used. Damn it, he was actually just some small trash. She decided to eat 10 ice popsicles to quell her anger before stomping through the already broken door. Mouths gaping, the members of the fire cannon team stared at their big sis's voluptuous and heaving chest, unable to retract their sight. Wang Zhang on the other hand didn't have many complicated feelings. For him and Sima, the stronger the opponent, the better it was. By using the maximum amount of effort to force his opponent to do the same, he was able to maximize the capture of soul essence. After the battle, Wang Zhang stuck to his usual schedule and proceeded with his physical training. The existence of the primordial chaos seal was something he was unable to understand, however, having a strong and resilient body was a necessity. Any kind of combat technique came with a definite load and requirement, and this also applies to combatants and ability users. Only by possessing a strong and resilient body can one withstand the backlash of using an ability. This was a critical element which required months of hard training in order to create the strong foundation of a resilient body that would not collapse unpredictably. After a satisfying half-hour of training, Wang Zhang felt clear-headed and refreshed. The satisfaction of victory washed over his soul, resulting in a unique feeling of the spirit and clarity of one's thoughts. The combat style of Wan actually wasn't too bad, as every academy or heroic soul family would have their own unique style of combat. Yet, all of them share at least a few similarities, for example, the pursuit of precision and control. Aiming for a one-strike kill was extremely difficult as the opponent wouldn't be an idiot that would wait patiently for your strike. Only by seizing an opportunity, identifying weaknesses, and risking one's life would one be able to land the killing blow. A true master would be able to grasp the correct moment and opportunity, utilizing his precision and control to take advantage of the opponent's weaknesses and expose a moment of vulnerability, thus landing the critical killing blow. This was Wang Zhang's understanding of combat. It didn't matter if it were individual or team combat, the concept of control was extremely important. Feeling that he could improve on his hypothesis, Wang Zhang opened up the memo on his Skylink and jotted down every single point of inspiration and corresponding action that would result from them. At another side, student Ma Dong finally arrived at the registration venue extremely delighted that his prodigy society could finally be officially recognized. Put the tables over there, yes, over there. Hey, you better be careful, that's the sign of the president, so make sure you place it properly, Ma Dong ordered. After finally achieving his dream even though he had to spend almost all of his savings, Ma Dong enjoyed every second of it. Now extremely loyal to Ma Dong, Baron was wholeheartedly rushing about and handling all of the required arrangements. Ma Dong opened the window and glanced outside. This is the allocated area of the Black Rose Society. Something good is happening. My goddess is approaching. Ma Dong took a deep breath and smelled the whiff of a slight fragrance that lingered in the air. Fortunately, as a member of the assassin clan and also by utilizing Emily's name, no one in the family would complain about him showing off. For prominent families, as long as results were shown, the process didn't matter. Personal experiences were part of a person's training. "Leader, what are you looking at?" Baron curiously asked. Ma Dong looked deeply at Baron and patted his waist. "That's a very good question. Did you see it?" Baron gestured, looked around incredulously and said, "What?" "It's the future," Ma Dong said with a serious tone. He ignored the fact that Emily was busy, and that even Wang Zhang and Gray were nowhere to be found. Being a leader wasn't an easy job, as it required one to babysit everyone, including Baron. The minimum requirement for a society was 5 people, but the prodigy society would definitely grow bigger and larger because he wanted to create a legend. Baron felt as though his president was shining. A new day had started, and as the new students started flowing, laughter filled the school as the upper-year students scurried along hurriedly. Due to having a lecture in the afternoon, Wang Zhang headed into the lecture hall, which quickly became crowded and noisy as more restless second-years started coming in. The core emphasis of the second-year curriculum was theories and analyses, and that's the reason why Wang Zhang could continue studying despite his hopelessly poor grades. Yet, if he were to fail again this year, he wouldn't even get the chance to have a second attempt. Upon seeing Wang Zhang, looks of contempt showed on some of the students' faces, with some of them even snickering. This was similar to his previous year, except that this time there was no response from Wang Zhang. He was going to leave the academy sooner or later, but still, the taunting did worsen. The commander department was the most illustrious department within the academy, and contained within it were students that came from prestigious heroic families, those with deep political backgrounds, and, of course, students with excellent grades. Wang Zhang was considered as the forgotten of the lot. Those inside cliques were known to do quite nasty things to people who didn't get on their good side. Luckily for Wang Zhang, however, the presence of Ma Dong helped restrain the bullying from these people. As incredible as it seemed, Ma Dong was considered one of the popular and well-received figures with the academy. Although not the most popular, he stood within the top tier of the category. Despising those fellows that acted extremely arrogant and being too lazy to bother with him, Ma Dong instead became extremely good friends with Wang Zhang, a relationship that happened regardless of the fact that they shared the same dormitory room. These punks had various unscrupulous means to deal with their target, and it was only because of Ma Dong that they did not dare to be too unbridled. Shockingly, Ma Dong, who was usually late to everything and was a regular class ditcher, was quite on time today. He arrived and quickly sat down beside Wang Zhang, excitedly exclaiming, "Do you know whose class we are attending today? Isn't it Professor Marshall?" "Heh, if it was that old man then I would have already skipped class." "Never mind, I'll give you a hint. You'll know in a short while." After a short while, the lecture room quieted down as everyone's focus was on the stage. A tremendous roar of cheering and applause rang out soon after. In this era, most of the greatest idols were heroes, especially those that possessed both beauty and strength. I created a game for Android Idol Ninja Empire. I could use a little support in promoting it. Just download it and play for a while. Thank you in advance. End of Part 1. Novels Hall Dynasty.